Well, I figured for a battle of APAC, I would bring somebody who we have imported from APAC and our first time casting together. I'm Intero. This is the Guzzler. At some point, if we could have Guzz amended to say the Guzzler, that would be greatly appreciated. We have Dplus Kia versus Bliss, and the loser goes home.
They do. Which could mean that I will be either quite happy or very, very sad at the conclusion of this game. Hopefully, it is the former and not the latter.
Team Bliss have had some okay moments so far through what has been a relatively rough tournament for them. Dplus Kia, we can't really say the same. Only 17 rounds that they have won. If you do the math, that is 22 rounds fewer than Team Bliss, who are in second last in terms of rounds won. You can see right there on your screen, Space Station, FaZe Clan, and Wolves have dominated this group. Now, there's no way that either of these teams vault out of 5th and 4th, because as you can see, today's the last day. Space Station has a day off. FaZe Clan and Wolves just played. Spoilers incoming. FaZe Clan beat Wolves 2-0. Now, you're the APAC expert. What are your expectations between Bliss and Dplus Kia?
Well, even putting my OS bias aside, I'm expecting Bliss to be relatively heavy favorites heading into this particular matchup. Of course, they're taking on Dplus, and as you mentioned, their round diff is not particularly amazing at the moment across the 6 maps they've played thus far. Guess how many attacking rounds they've been able to muster?
Dplus?
6.
Oh boy.
1 per map. On average.
FearX just won their matchup earlier today by winning 2 attacking rounds. If you like
Could
to play,
one be enough?
If you like to play defenders, let me tell you, we got a meta for you. It's the time to be alive. Dplus Kia, the organization, also tweeted out yesterday they are looking for players in the middle of their teams. They had to play with that information. Here's the Bliss roster. Here's the Bliss team.
Yeah, very excited to see these Bliss boys back inside of the server. Of course, yesterday, able to snatch a map against FaZe Clan over on Bank, a tight 8-7. And to be fair, across the 3 matches they've played thus far, plenty of overtimes, but not going their way. Of course, leading up to this elimination game. Again, anticipating them, though, to be favorites. I think they've been a little bit more well-rounded. And again, considering that they've been far more competitive through their 3 games, they go in as the favorites.
Chalet, Consulate, and Clubhouse on the board. Bliss get to start on their map pick. Now, for Chalet, you expect a very defender-sided matchup. Let's just get this out of the way. You're going to expect the defenders to do well in pretty much every single map that we're going to play so far today. The expectation right now is the attackers will win 2 rounds at absolute most. Now, if you're capable of winning 3 rounds on attack on Chalet, that's not abnormal, but that's pretty darn good. 4 rounds on attack on Chalet? Well, goddamn. You might as well just hand them the hammer. Bliss is going to be starting on attack, so we will see what the expectations are for them after the first couple rounds. These Korean squads here at Six Invitational have had some serious struggles. Former player of Dplus Kia actually had a very good game for FearX earlier. Rin, despite having a slow start to this event, has picked it up in the ensuing games after their first matchup. Operator bands rolling in, Guzzler. Lion and Brava removed. The question is going to be what defenders are taken out, because we are in this nuisance meta for defenders. You see Solus, you see Azami, you see Aruni, you see Tubarao, you see Fenrir, you see Valkyrie, you see Legion being run quite consistently. Solus being taken out. Is this an Azami? It's a Fenrir, which means that Azami and Tubarao will both be available for Chalet.
Yeah, of course, that's Solus. Not too unexpected for Bliss. 100% ban rate for that particular operator. Across every single map that they have played thus far. I will say the line's a little bit intriguing from Dplus. They've only banned a single global throughout the tournament, and that being the Dockerby. So we're going to be seeing a bit of a switch up in that department. I will say as well, the Brava also quite intriguing. So we may well see Bliss lean heavily into the meta with, you know, those particular operators that are countered by the Brava in that second half. But of course, they're kicking things off on attack. Half where rounds are going to come at a premium, and I think we're going to get a good barometer as to how they're feeling today.
This bomb site downstairs, this wine garage bomb site,
located by
is typically a bomb site that is quite favorable to the newest operator from Portugal, Tubarao, but of course is absent on your screen. Now, the way that those Zoto canisters can hold off the hard breachers obviously means that the more walls that you hold off any type of breaching, the stronger Tubrao is going to get. If you fail to get the breach from opening up, you can then use them to slow down the attackers, quite literally, and also gain that information. You see the footprints if you throw it on somebody who's playing above. Almost certain that Bliss is going to stick somebody over the bomb site, because that's what you tend to see, especially in that kitchen part of the map. You look deep, deep down below you. One thing I do think is a bit interesting is there's no Buck, there's no Ram, there's only, I mean, you've got 6 breaches, I guess. That kind of goes in your favor. But if you're looking at making the lives of the defenders miserable inside a lobby by tearing open that floor, you're going to have a bit more struggles here. I wonder if we might see a more linear take from Bliss.
Yeah, I mean, it always opens up that opportunity, right, to open up. Snowmobile initially, you can post the glass out there, self-sufficient with smokes, and then rotate over towards wine, where the burn may not be as necessary. It's Coded though to kick things off, able to find first in this particular engagement. It's Wettables to fall, so one of the 2 hard breaches in the grave, so Fisho now needs to ensure that he is proficient and getting both breaches. As anticipated, Sage, I thought was going to post up on the breach, but he rotates off, at least for now, but he has the potential to lurk back later in the round.
Yeah, Wettables getting removed from round number 1, just like his mustache got removed yesterday on that segment, if you watched it, of course.
Well, I hosted it, so
I
didn't watch it, but I was there.
Michael?
Were you talking to the audience?
I was talking to the audience.
You brought out the Michael and it's only round 1.
I'm already frustrated with your sounds, okay? Oh! I'm sorry, did you not say that there was more on the shoulders of Bliss here? Well, guess what they haven't done? They have not taken out Coded. They didn't even seem to know he was upstairs. Now the breach will get open into wine with half of the round to go. Dplus Kia can get very aggressive here as they try to plug this hole, and Fisho guy taken out by a Nitro cell. It will cost them the Kiba barriers as well, but I think I would trade 2 Kiba barriers for a kill any day of the week.
Well, not a great start then for the Aussies. This attack never really allowed to get going. Sage will push deep now in towards contact low, and in fact will not find that yet. Rendo, his brother, pushes through as well. A little bit late, no trade. Round 1 going the way of the South Koreans.
You say his brother, they do kind of look alike.
They are literally brothers. I'm not joking. Did you not know?
Oh my god.
They are quite literally bros. Of the literal sense.
I know that. I was making a joke. This is going to be a long day. This is going to be a long cast.
Well, it will be if Bliss lose.
The funny thing is that we requested to cast together, and I'm already fed up, and we're 1 rounder. And I love it. This is... I hope this level of animosity continues. That's all I can really ask for. Honestly, pretty ineffective start by Bliss. Coded upstairs, roaming completely unsupported. They don't drone him out. They do drone him a little bit, but then don't drone him again. They get picked out by the window. You allow him to play up there. Picks. I do like that they went for that more linear take. They opened up wine. They tried to pressure wine, but then again, you have no way, no soft destruction in that main lobby to force the defenders to watch where they're standing. You just have a Nizami who can stand there and plug that hole with those Kiba barriers. It's not an ideal situation to be in, so not exactly the best usage of your attacking lineup. And if Bliss does decide to attack that bomb site again, should Dplus Kia go back down there, which I imagine they will, I'd like to see a little bit more soft destruction get brought. Like I said, a Ram, Buck, even Fuse can be used in a pinch, as we've seen before, to open up that main lobby floor.
Well, the Sense has been selected then round 2, and probably the only team that I can remember playing it, at least that I've covered so far in the tournament. Well, Woogie gives away a freebie to Oda, who can pluck that one from front yard. Also, to play no further part in this round, and it gives Bliss the advantage to now pivot around for the remainder of round 2. Probably give them a little bit more confidence and freedom as they look to prepare for this push. It's pretty standard here from Dplus with util mezzanine, up library stairs. I suppose for Bliss, they don't have the greatest in terms of tools to deal with that utility. No Flores, for instance, no grenades. So we'll see how they go about dealing with it. They may just look to overload these positions.
Well, I mean, they've sent out the roly-poly-olies, if you want to call them that, from Sens. Brendo walks in, kills Coded, and the advantage for Bliss will continue onward. Now, logic bombs will go off, and Dplus Kia will scramble backwards. Bliss taking advantage of those calls, but ultimately not pressuring the site just yet. Still halfway through this round, and you've got plenty of drones. You've got information. Yes, the first kill for Dplus Kia in this particular round. Roaming over towards kitchen and is also holding parts of lobby. If you allow him to persist there, he can rotate and get back and potentially thwart a plant from Bliss.
70 seconds then on the clock. Bliss just taking their time and doing their due diligence. Fishoguy has the diffuser in his hands over towards the double window and the ROU to cover that potential entry point. Now Soldier is playing in back store and still has 2 smoke canisters in the hand, so that will stall out this push for a little while longer unless Bliss elect to go deep into towards site, but that's probably not advised at this point in time, at least not yet.
The very last wall will go up now for the Sens of Fishoguy. You've still got 2 toxic canisters left with 40 seconds remaining, so good coverage then can be blanketed in the bomb site by the objective play of the defenders. They just need to hold off this push from Bliss, and of course Bliss have an advantage of 1. It gets better as down goes Soldier. Diffuser in hands of Fishoguy. That will compel Yas to get back to the bomb site. But both remaining players of Dplus Kia are far afield, and now they'll have to work with a post plan. It's all up to Yas with a single point of HP. Mally is dead. And a retreat to the site from Blue. Bliss able to just lock this out. There's no way Yas is going to be able to find all 4 of them. He might not even be able to make it out of this particular portion of the map, Michael. So, rotate by, waste time. What's he going to do? Oh! A relatively unimpactful kill onto Wettables, but it's all over. And Yas knows that. Good drone work from Bliss with 7 seconds left. There's no way he's going to be able to do it. And Bliss use their utility effectively, forcing off those Dplus Kia players early, and then getting the plant down.
Probably the most efficient use of the sense that I've actually seen from Bliss in the tournament thus far. So obviously something they've cooked up in the boot camps paying off on that particular occasion. I will say, though, I don't think that that particular lineup and that particular play style is actually going to work against stronger teams, right? They didn't clear any of the utility, instead focusing on just jumping in, flooding those positions, winning ones. And I don't think Dplus were anticipating that, didn't have a particularly good read on it. And again, having the main disadvantage off the back of this first kill meant that they look a little bit uncomfortable for the remainder of the round. Still though from Bliss, can't really talk down on them for that particular effort. Round number 3 now, over towards Dining. And we'll see how Dplus look to respond.
Just waiting for the attacking lineup to come in now. I don't know about you and Xenox, but I like maybe referencing a pick that could come in from the attackers, but then you end up getting bamboozled. Like there was one time where there was a Blackbeard picked until like the last second. It's like, come on, man.
I think some teams troll deliberately.
You want to make our lives harder? Is that what you want to do? Is that what you want to do, players? Well, it seems like that is the case. I like what Coded's attempting here.
I don't.
Well, of course, because you're a biased Australian caster. I don't care which of these teams win. I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy.
Are you going to be happy to see me miserable for the remainder of the tournament if Bliss?
Yes, actually, that would make me very happy. That would make me exceptionally happy. You're wearing Crocs right now. I want you to suffer at this point. I don't know if we're allowed to say it.
Well, at least my toes are covered, unlike other members of talent during this event.
Yes, well, Carter's had the dogs out all day, every day, and he's been walking around barefoot. It is, frankly, disgusting. I'm wearing boots today.
They are very nice boots.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That's very nice of you. It's nice of you to say that. So, Bliss taking the first minute, and have found that Library is not being held by Dplus Kia at the moment. That upstairs portion of the map can be very integral when you look at a kitchen dining defense, but a lot of the defenders tend to be stacked up over towards the bedroom and office side of things, where you can see there's already been an investment. There's some reinforcements up there and a soft wall. So it is fascinating that, again, there is no buck, there is no, well, there is a sledge now at this point, but there is no long-range destruction that can be done on these soft walls or floors. Brendo will lead the charge with the first altercation, maybe just an inch away. They'll have information, but Dplus Kia scamper off, and farther back they will go into the bedroom and towards Solarium.
Well, it's the 12 flash lineup here from Bliss, so there's every world in which they can flash out these positions, find these picks, and then the vert may not necessarily be a huge win condition for them. Well, Brendo doesn't need any flashes. He gets the first onto Damali, Dplus as well onto Woogie. Yas aggresses over towards Bathroom, good for one. As Bliss now look to take that territory and chip away at it. It's a double for Wet, make it 3. He seems to have a knack for multi-kills on this particular map. He did it earlier against Wolves in the tournament. And Coded will now need to find 4 if he wants to bring this one back to Dplus.
A tremendously skilled player, and he's got at least one lineup correctly using the smart goggles. There have been times before when we have seen teams struggle with this, but there's just too many angles to cover. Bliss were excellent to get control of the top floor, and once they realized they had library, you've now opened up 2 huge portions of the map that you can play off of. Number one, you're going to be out on that balcony. You can open up those office walls and use those lines of sight to potentially kill somebody, or at absolute worst, the defenders need to retreat, which is what we saw from Dplus Kia. They retreated out of office, farther back into master bedroom. Additionally, you've got control of library, and you can keep a flank drone over there if you know that there's nobody over there and there's no utility being used over there. So suddenly, you've basically got this entire floor at your disposal, except for Bathroom and Solarium, which then Bliss used their utility to take engagements on and won that. It was textbook roam clear and textbook map control by Bliss. And honestly, kudos to them for the way that they played that off. Once you've broken the back of Dplus Kia upstairs, at that point, whether you're sitting in kitchen or whether you're sitting in dining, you've got to be wary of that kitchen wall getting opened up by a hard breacher. Bliss didn't open up, but that's okay. You've then got to watch the doorway. You've got to be worried about trophy stairs because now you've lost control of Solarium. And then things just go very bad for you in a hurry because unlike a lot of other bomb sites, there's really no way out of that kitchen dining bomb site once you've lost control of above and the peripherals. So Bliss play that very well. They grab the lead. And we'll go back to the very first bomb site we saw, Guz, which is downstairs.
Just didn't quite go the way of Bliss last time around.
No, it certainly didn't, you know.
A little bit.
It was bad. I think it was kind of bad. I don't know if you watched, but the attack that they had was not great.
Not amazing. Well, Soldier attempts the bandit trick on the wall, but it does not land, so some good util game there from both Fish and Wet on the Thermite and the Thatcher, respectively. You now see Bliss probably rotate over towards Wine to try and split this push. Coupon approach. I don't know if Bliss are necessarily going to lean into a heavy vert play, and I know it's something that we've been commenting on a little bit throughout the first quarter of this particular match, that they're electing not to play the buck or the sledge. But I'd probably make the argument that it's not particularly necessary, and maybe I'll overcomplicate a push, which for Bliss locally in OS can sometimes be a bit of an issue against weaker opponents where they overcomplicate things and their own demise. Minute 45 though on the clock, a bit of a roam being employed here from Dplus Kia at the moment. But the Jackal is in play for Bliss, so they should be able to get a read on this and force them back.
I mean, hey, if you can't get coated from his roam, you might as well bring a Jackal onto the board. You look at the operator bands, the Lion banned out by Dplus Kia, so that's one of the globals that Bliss won't have available, but obviously the Dokkaebi is not a terrible decision either. Just as we saw in round number 1, Dplus Kia will get the lead-off pick. Brendo dies, and it was a hard breach that died early, if you recall, back in round number 1 as well. It's not a good situation when you don't find yourself in a good situation when you lose one of your hard breachers first. You have to wonder why somebody like Brendo or Fisho Guy are even in positions to die first.
Yes, not even my bias can cover that fault from Bliss. Mistake from them here.
Thank you for having some integrity here. I appreciate that.
Integrity.
Integrity.
Are we allowed to talk about that particular show on this broadcast? Probably not.
Probably not.
Well, 30 seconds. Thatcher's still in play. Fisher does have an exothermic, so they could route one. The back push here through Wine Cellar. I will say yes, being on top floor could pose a bit of a threat and flank potential. Oda is in position to maybe contest. Instead, though, now over towards the dining hatch, and Bliss will need to Hail Mary this final play.
I don't know what Oda is exactly looking at. There you go. You'll drop. Blue is clear. Down goes Soldier. Wettables, you said. Always good for more than one kill. Finds 2 so far. Oda on the board as well, but there's D-Mally to retake from main stairs. Wettables finds 3 kills. So here's your win con if you're Bliss. Wettables gets a 3K. And you win the round. Very simple stuff.
Yeah, I suppose so. Which is pretty interesting, right? Because you look at Wet obviously joining this roster not all that long ago in replacement of Jigsaw. There was a lot of discussion at the time as to whether or not that would be a worthy replacement, considering that he didn't have a lot of big experience in big teams locally. However, he has clearly shown up. A .95 rating at Atlanta. Not horrible for an international debut.
I think
He's breaking out nicely at the moment.
I think a .95 rating is pretty good for a lot of players in his particular position, especially.
That would have put him second on the team. So.
I mean, like, OS is really hard to quantify, and I mean, obviously you call it OS. A lot of us as casters call it ANZ.
ANZ.
And I'm not American. I don't say Z. I say it like the entire rest of the world.
Wait, you're not American. I thought.
Believe it or not.
North American.
I mean, technically, are Brazilians Americans? Because this is South America. I'd imagine if you were from New Zealand and somebody called you Australian, you would feel the same way that I do when somebody calls me American. You are from the America of APAC. How does that feel? And the UK is America of Europe.
Ooh.
No, the UK doesn't really want to be a part of Europe anymore, but we don't need to get into that, eh? Brexit means Brexit. Oh, 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 oh. Oi, bruv. Oi, bruv, we're gonna leave Europe.
I've already had to cast with Des. I
I'm so
don't need to experience that.
I'm very sorry.
Don't need to relive that.
Yeah.
Well then, into round number 5 we go, and it's R this time round.
Have you noticed that the it's almost like a sage green behind Sage on the backdrop? You know, it's just a small little thing. Just a small little thing. Same lineup, or at least very close to the same lineup that Bliss brought in this previous execute when they wanted to pull off a bar gaming take. Looks like the Dplus Kia rotations for this map will exclude the upstairs bomb site as they've gone to garage, then bar gaming, then kitchen. Now they've gone to garage, bar gaming. They still have time to make a change for this final round. Dplus only has a single one of those logic bombs remaining. How he will use it is anybody's guess. I think he's probably going to call them, and then everybody's probably going to make noise.
And then get a multi-kill.
And then get a multi-kill. I think that is absolutely correct. Do you have on your? Are you in the fantasy league that Jesse has made?
We don't talk about that.
So you are. You're probably doing very
it.
poorly.
I wouldn't say I'm competitive. I think I'm dead last at the moment. And I don't have any of these players in my team.
I was going to say, Wettable seems like a pretty solid bet so far. Multi-kills. Anyway. Half of the round gone. A very sluggish round so far. Bliss were much better at getting information on the defenders and then using that to their advantage the last time they attacked this bomb site. So Dplus Kia obviously finding ways around that drone work and entry to stop Bliss in their tracks.
Again, a lack of explosives here. Brendo does have the 2 Ash charges, but that only equates to more than likely 2 Keeper barriers, which are pivotal in holding the top library stairs position. Predator elected not to bring a shield. He's running Nitro on mezzanine. But I think at this point in time, Bliss probably need to go a little bit more direct with the objective. Wettables and his luck continues through blue. Probably a little bit unlucky for the Aussie to not find that initial pick, but he does find the second. That's Woogie onto Oda. He can get towards sight. Wettables takes the space, but immediately shut down. And now a 2v5 with 30 seconds on the clock. And this has been a pretty disappointing attack from Bliss.
No, absolutely. Early on, the Sens in the previous round was used for library, and you're not getting library control now until 15 seconds. Hold on a second. Brendo has picked up 2. A third is not out of reach. The problem is his Fisho guy is going to be left all on his own as there's still a job to be done. Diffuser needs to be brought on in. Brendo looking for more than 2. Boogeyman collecting basically all the kills for Dplus Kia at this point, and it's a second successful defense for the Korean team. Now, when we were getting into this matchup, we talked about what win conditions on these maps look like. You're right now looking at 2 rounds on attack being the win condition for most of these teams. The fact that Bliss has already hit that and then gone even one farther is excellent on Chalet. Now, for those of you that weren't watching the other stream, DZ and G2 were competing, and as far as I remember when we left to get into the booth to cast this, it was 3-3 on Chalet for both of those teams. So it is not unheard of for a team to pick up 3 on the quote-unquote less favorable side of Chalet. It's also worth noting that this is Bliss's map pick, so they should be comfortable on both sides. even if they're not particularly comfortable starting on the weaker side. Looks like the bomb site rotation, by the way, is going to remain the same as it was in the first 3 rounds. So there will be no upstairs bomb site. That means with how practiced Bliss looked in round number 4, have to suspect that there'll be some changes from Dplus Kia. They changed some things up in the previous round. They changed up how they held library. They changed up using their Kiba barriers, and Bliss just didn't ultimately have an answer for it. Dplus Kia was better every step of that round, leaving Bliss to flounder in the final couple moments. How is Dplus Kia going to change things up here to ensure that they don't meet the same fate on this bomb site?
Yeah, well, last time the big issue for Dplus was falling off the roam and getting back towards the objective. Wedables was able to station himself outside of the trophy window, farmed a multi, pretty free in that regard. Bliss didn't have to worry about that. Didn't even have to worry about breaching the main walls because the round was pretty much over and they could overload the objective itself. This time around things might be a little bit different, and the Kali info mode is suggesting initially that there would have been a focus on hard breach, but there's no follow-up from Bliss. So not entirely sure where the Kali will be employed. It's probably on that long angle.
Yep.
We call this Jigsaw from those who are familiar from the Oceanic region, as he loves to play that position. Gets the opening pick from there. And that's just, I guess, a lack of awareness from Soldier, who is unprotected on that particular spot.
That's huge, though. I mean, you've got these 2 operators in both the Azami of Soldier and Woogieman holding onto the Legion who generate their ability as time goes on. So losing the Azami with 2 minutes and 10-ish seconds left means that there will be 1, potentially 2 fewer Kiba barriers that can be used by Dplus Kia. Now, given the state of explosives in this game and the way that teams have some serious struggles on attack, 2 Kiba barriers can honestly be the difference as to whether or not you can gain map control quickly or not. Bliss have obviously changed things up when it comes to explosives, though. They're bringing the Zobia. They've also got 4 nades, which, while they might not be as strong as they used to be, Michael, they're still able to take out those Kiba barriers. Another pick comes in now onto Yas, and with just a little bit over a minute to go, oh boy, Bliss are in the driver's seat, and a 4-2 looks quite likely.
Yeah, this particular site has looked a little bit dodgy for Dplus. They don't look comfortable on the roam, and Bliss are forcing them out of key positions with relative ease. Here is a bit of vertical play, though, which we quite literally have not seen from Bliss at all during the half.
Yeah. Which is very puzzling for Chalet.
Yeah, with 45 seconds on the clock, I guess they have a buffer of time to maybe pluck 1 more pick from up above. Just make sure these positions are clear. It's another multi for Wedables. Building a bit of streak on this map. 8 total in the first half from him. Hoda behind the chassis, the last one standing. He will be slain, and Bliss with a pretty solid attacking half.
Yeah, honestly, I am amazed, frankly, that Bliss was able to win 3 other rounds on this map with very limited vertical play and very limited soft destruction. I mean...
I'm not.
I mean, okay. I am amazed in the sense that typically a map like Chalet necessitates quite a lot of soft destruction. And the fact that Bliss can pull it off because you're a homer and you like Bliss is not really much of a surprise. Teams can obviously play around things without going with the most optimal strategy, right? Some teams will tell you that if you're going to attack this bottom floor bomb site, which is the first bomb site that Bliss is going to start on, you need something like a Buck, like a Ram, like a Flores, like a Fuse, who Woogieman was hovering on for a second there, but now is swapping off to the Ash. Certain teams will tell you that is not a full-blown requirement, but it makes your life an awful lot easier. Clearly, you can win with pretty much any lineup at any point. And again, these are the top 20 teams in the world. There's not a lot of daylight between them. So small things can make every team overcome any team. But Bliss were good on drone work. That was the one thing that really stood out to me, was that outside of 2 rounds, which were both of the rounds of D+1, Bliss seemed to have a really good idea of where the roam of Dplus Kia was coming from, and they had the tools to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they ban out the Solace, and it's one of the hallmarks of their playstyle locally. Replay strains are a strength of theirs. It often meant that grenades from down below were one of their key win conditions, but it goes without saying that that is no longer the case. And the Maverick can play then for round number 7 to negate the impact of the Bandit, but Wedables hitting double digits in the early phase of round number 7, proving to be a challenge to tame.
Now, what's the over-under on Wedables getting another kill this round? Breaks double digits, by the way. Quite an impressive scoreline. The next closest is 6 kills. That's held by both Brendo and Boogeyman. So 4 whole kills over his next closest. Do you think the shave helped him level up his game here against his semi-regional adversaries?
I thought it was going to have the opposite effect, but maybe he's going to make up for the fact that he doesn't look as scary IRL now.
You mean like when somebody, like that, if Donkey Kong's head gets shaved, he loses all of his power, like kind of like that? Like when Venables loses his mustache, he becomes completely useless. That's a fun little piece of Donkey Kong lore, by the way. If you shave Donkey Kong's head, he loses all of his power. Wettables had his mustache shaved yesterday. Maybe self-conscious. Maybe there's some...
And yes, I saw it before you ask.
Maybe there's some special cause. You were there. You were there yourself. Another kill comes in onto Soldier. The Buck is gone. Buck and Thermite being lost with almost half of the round to go is quite devastating on this bottom floor bomb site. I don't know if we saw those exothermic charges get used on either of the walls. There's likely still one wall that you need to get opened up. Additionally, any soft destruction inside the lobby, no longer there. Wettables die, so only a single kill on this round, but you see that the Goyo canisters are still doing good work. Woogieman taking down Oda means that this round is far closer than it was just a moment ago.
Only 2 players from the defensive side on the bottom floor, so a potential roam here up above, and it's Brendo, trophy stairs, so he could make his way back towards the objective a little bit later on, try and catch Dplus off guard, unless they have a read. You can see Woogieman conscious of somebody off site. There are drones around, Soldier flicking them at the moment in the grave. With 30 seconds on the clock, Dplus sooner rather than later will need to give their attention towards the objective, and we'll see that now. 20 seconds, and Woogie caught in the goo mine, taken down, slain by Sage. Pretty easy kill for him. 2 versus 3. Yas posted up in blue, and again, Bliss have a read on this position.
Goal!
Sage clipped. 8 seconds on the clock, and Yas all alone. Facing that mirror window, always going to be a challenging fight. Fisher makes no mistake of it, and Bliss open up the account nicely on defense.
So, inverse to what we saw out of Bliss was that Dplus Kia didn't look like they really knew where these Bliss players were sitting and how to best tackle that, especially with the ensuing fight. Now, when you lose your hard breacher first, as Bliss knows, it makes a recovery quite a significant challenge here. So it completely changes up, or can completely change up, depending on what the hard breacher's been able to do, how you want to go about the bomb site. I think it might seem very simplistic, but if your goal is to use the exothermic charge to open things up, and that was a very puzzling engagement, by the way. If every single part of your strategy revolves around the Thermite not dying early and being able to open up a very crucial part of the map, and then the Thermite is the first casualty on your team, you are basically going to need to change up every single bit of your strategy to approach that site. Wine, if that was where you wanted to go, not getting opened up now. Main garage wall, not getting opened up now. So when you look at it, I kind of understand what Dplus Kia was trying to do, which was they tried to then sweep out that main floor and go for the more straightforward execute on the stairs, blue, and back of wine. Obviously, did not work out. And at that point, you've taken on so much water by losing your main hard breacher that you're probably going to sink anyway, but you want to get as close to shore as possible so that you can swim the rest of the way. Dplus Kia don't make it there. They capsize. Bliss now sitting on a very nice nest egg. Dplus Kia still have their timeout, though, if this round goes against them.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on that Wettable storyline again, because for Bliss, they haven't really had the ability to rely on a star player throughout this tournament. In fact, everybody has a negative rating at the moment. And it's a pretty tight spread, so they're playing well as a team. But as we've seen time and time again throughout the tournament in various matchups, if you can have one player that's really popping off, especially on attack to unlock objectives, it makes your life a whole load easier. Wettables did that nicely for his team this time around. 10 kills so far, plenty of multi-kills, which again we have mentioned a few times. Into round 8 though we go, and the Valkyrie employed here from the Aussies to gain some additional information. There was a Nitro cell placed there by Fisher, but he elects not to use that now. Twitch in play to try and counter the mirror. Spots the feet from Brendo, but doesn't commit.
How do they track the stats in that fantasy league, by the way? Is there a specific stat where you get extra points for somebody getting a multi-kill? Do you know?
I believe it's...
Or is there like a
I think it's
secret, a
just
super
X and-
secret wizard formula that Jesse just holds on to himself and doesn't let any of you know?
No, it's public. I think it's just X amount of points for a kill. I don't think a multi-kill in a round is like multiplied or anything like that.
Understandable. I think it's been talked about before on the broadcast that both Jesse and I are actually playing fantasy hockey. We are in the same league together. Flynn is actually in the same league as us. I'm actually playing Flynn this week. So I have a keen interest in how the fantasy thing works. I just ultimately didn't end up joining the Rainbow Six Fantasy League that was going on. But having Rainbow Six Fantasy for live events seems great. And honestly, it's something that we should do with more frequency. I'm sorry that you're not doing very well.
It's a long tournament.
Plenty of time.
Exactly.
Yes, finding his maker at what sounded like the hands of a shotgun, and he gets retrieved immediately. I'm not exactly sure what this altercation was. Fisho Guy's in a bit of trouble, but hold on. He's better than everybody he faces at the moment. Coded and Yas killed. D-Mally dropped. Soldier on 1 HP. Things go from okay to terrible for Dplus Kia in the matter of moments. And now it's Woogie Man done as well. Well, the round is not even over, and a timeout has already been called by Dplus Kia, as at this point, the remainder of Soldier feels like a formality, a flawless end to the round, and it's Bliss to go on a map point on their own map.
And before you were talking about that G2-DZ matchup on the other stream, same map, the pacing from the attacks, especially from G2, was significantly faster from what we're seeing from both teams, but in particular, Dplus to kick things off. Round 6 and 7, very, very, very slow from Dplus, not achieving a whole lot in terms of displacement, clearing utility, then having to send it in towards side against a, team of defenders which are fired up and sharp and mechanically sound, not missing shots and not making all too many mistakes on the objective. So I will say the tactical timeout here is obviously great from Dplus. They need it at this point. Maybe a little bit late though, considering that they can't make any mistakes from this point onwards.
Yeah, very late. D-Mally 1 and 7 right now. Soldier 2 and 7. Coded 3 and 7. 2 of Coded's 3 kills came in round number 1. Or correct me if I'm wrong, but Coded's 2 kills were the first 2 kills of this series. Since then, since minute 2 of round 1, Coded only has a single kill. Now, obviously, can't underscore the fact that Coded got those 2 picks, and then his team won that round. One of only the 2 rounds that Dplus Kia has won. So even when you look at somebody like Coded and say, yeah, it's terrible that he has 3 kills, you can then turn around and point at the fact that, hey, 2 of those kills directly led to you leading a round. If one player on your team can guarantee themselves 2 kills to win you a round, most teams are going to take that. So hats off to Coded for that one. But outside of that, Yas is 6 and 6. Woogie Man is 7 and 7. These are not numbers that are anywhere near close to being able to stand up to most teams. Certainly not being able to stand up to Bliss, who in stark contrast have Fisho Guy with only 2 deaths so far through 8 active rounds of play. Oda, Brendo, and Sage next with 4 deaths each. Really just, we spoke a lot about the strategy behind both of these teams, Michael, but we haven't really dove into the gunplay, which is that Dplus Kia are also being outclassed in terms of gunplay. And Bliss are just looking so much better in their engagements. Obviously, we focused on Wedables a lot because he's winning those gunfights, but it seems like almost everybody else on Bliss is as well. And when all of your team is fighting back and winning their duels, with the strategy being in the favor of Bliss as well, there's just very limited upside and very limited opportunities for Dplus Kia to really make some noise in these rounds. So hopefully the timeout from the Korean team can change things around. Well, I say that. You probably hope it doesn't, because you're biased. Am I wrong?
4 match points for Bliss.
The defense rests, Your Honor.
Dplus looking to push from solo across, at least initially, with the recall from Yas. Stark contrast to Bliss, who heavily focus their efforts on Office, pushing that defense back towards Solar. Soldiers on the double window repel currently, but Fisho 2 can test. There's a buttload of utility for Dplus to deal with. Maestro Evil Eyes, you can see the keeper barriers as well being pinged out by the attack. Will they be able to clear it though? Create some space for the team. Frag grenades come through from Yas, and I don't believe that one's been able to capture.
Yeah, I was going to say, was it going at the Kiba barrier, or was it to try and stop Fisho Guy from holding the doorway? I'm not sure. if you're going to pressure these defenders upstairs, you have to take control of big window, and that's exactly what Dplus Kia does. Now, I said they weren't winning their ones. Soldier does it. He swings onto the window, and a nice shot onto Fisho Guy. Fisho Guy, only his third death so far. There comes an Adrenal Surge, still one Logic Bomb in the back pocket of D-Mally as well, who now will continue to advance. Woogieman off the board. D-Mally ends up dying to the goo mine. The damage over time, but the good news is you've got a Finka to pick him right back up. So now you don't need an actual person to retrieve him. Just under a minute to go, and an advantage right now in favor of Dplus Kia.
Yeah, Oda forced back, but able to make the cross back towards the objective, so half the job done for him and being able to help lock down the site. Ready to bring things back, so it's a 3 versus 3 vertical pressure now being established. Red pings on site, so Bliss need to be mindful. They should have a decent amount of counter pressure themselves, but Yasta cut down Oda with only 25 seconds on the clock.
I love that the Buck is still doing work in 20 seconds. It means that these last two players, both Wedables and Brendo, cannot sit pretty. They have to keep maneuvering. And Brendo finds himself dead at the hands of Code and Wedables with that Alda. If there were ever an operator designed to take on 3 players, it's a Maestro, and he's good enough for a single kill. Looking for another, but he can't collect. Running out of bullets at this point, and the rotate eludes him as he's just a couple paces behind. Another round for Dplus Kia, but they've got a tall task ahead of them. They need to go perfect for the remainder of regulation if they want to even sniff the potential of a victory. It'll be done in overtime.
There must have been a typo in the script for that final portion of the round, because typically Wedables would get the multi.
Right.
Or maybe play for time. There's only about 4 seconds left when he was dropped. But a lot of it spearheaded by that first initial pick. Good control from double window, from Soldier. That was the trigger point for the attack to flood through. As he mentioned, Buck getting to work in the late round made it very precarious for the remaining 2 defenders on and around the particular objective itself. So good work from Dplus. Once the pressure begun, it took a long time for the build-up, but once it was spearheaded, they didn't alleviate and take their foot off the gas.
So the 2 main issues that we had pinpointed with this Dplus Kia roster, the lack of success in gunfights, and then some strategical issues, both looked much better that time around. And obviously you can't just credit a single timeout for fixing all of those issues. But Dplus Kia looked far more certain in their duels. There was more confidence there. Maybe there was drone work that we didn't exactly see, and they felt like they had more information than usual. Obviously, it was only their 3rd attempt on attack, so maybe they had a rough start to those first 2 rounds. Obviously, we know that their 2nd attack was quite rough, as it was flawlessly won by Bliss. So you can't get much worse than that, but Dplus Kia are much better than that. Now, they have to go back to the very first bomb site that Bliss defended, and where, honestly, the slide for Dplus Kia seemed to accelerate on this second half. I'd like to remind everybody that every single map at this current point in time of the Six Invitational favors the defenders. Some of them very much favor the defenders. Now, Chalet is not an odd map for the attackers to do better than average, but given that Bliss were only able to win 3 rounds on attack on their map, you have to imagine that Dplus Kia are very worried, because they need to win 4 attacking rounds themselves, which again, as I pointed out, you have to go perfect. 1 minute off of the clock, and right now the main focus from Dplus Kia still in discovery and still looking to clear out that top floor, which right now Oda is holding down relatively on his own. Sage is farther back with Kiba barriers there for some protection.
Not many opportunities for Dplus to slip up at this point of time. Bliss with a triple roam currently. Need to be mindful that they don't get caught on that cross through trophy. But it was obscured by that Kiba barrier. That's coded on the Thermite. Likely pivoting for a wine cellar push later on in the round. Sage, during that fall off, is able to find Woogieman. Coded as well, taken low, so good pressure from Bliss. And at this point in time, they can look to fortify on site. Of course, once again, the Buck is in play, so they'll have to be mindful of that, and Bliss probably won't be given an opportunity to re-aggress back up. However, they should be okay from this point onwards.
I mean, take a look. All 5 defenders right now are either in sight or are in a room right next to the bomb site. So the Jackal being lost is not actually a huge blow for them. The only thing that a Jackal would really help here is identifying that there's actually nobody really roaming. Dplus Kia have 5 drones still remaining. So they've got that information available should they choose to use it. On the other side, you just saw that there's a black eye cam rather from Brendo that was watching that main lobby. That's a lot of information for Bliss to have, as still see some bucking being done. But the advance from Bliss will be slowed down as the Goyo canisters break apart and the fire litters the ground in their way. Flashbangs drop. Now Coda will go for the hatch, immediately slaughtered by Oda, who's still holding that same position. He's out-dueled on the breach, but 2 players are down from Dplus, leaving Soldier and Connector all on his own, and the stack-up works. Wettables credited with the final kill, but it's technically Brendo to draw blood at the very end of that matchup. And Bliss win 7-3.
The late tactical timeout from Dplus could only achieve so much. That margin too large. Team Bliss doing a phenomenal job in closing out that game in a confident fashion. Did a good job on their map pick and set themselves up nicely in this best of 3.
Well, there's still 2 more maps to go. Let's waste no time. Does Bliss make it through and live to see another day? Or do we have a 3-map matchup? We'll find out with map 2 in just a moment.
I honestly think he couldn't get that angle.
Yeah, I mean, that is just a ridiculous retake from DC where they have an immediate response to the problem. They say, okay, let's give them the bomb site. Nave and stuck inside a bathroom. Pamba, come downstairs with me. I'm Solus. I'm going to show you where they plan. You throw a C4, you get the kill. Okay, G2, don't start planning immediately. So Pamba will throw the C4 quicker and run up the staircase. Try up the other staircase and try and retake the site itself, and they win their individual 1v1s. They get back together and they go for that 2v1 swing and they get things done. A good win here from DC.
Yeah, and I did pose that question earlier in the round. Did they know that Pamba was still lurking inside a CCTV? There was only 1 drone available for G2. Don't know how many of those were at the hands of Canadian, but nevertheless, in the end, Benja was watching, waiting. At some point, though, when you're playing that balcony position and when the push does eventually come through from logistics, from Jacuzzi, you need to be helping out on site. That means he turns his attention away from CC. Easily done from Pamba, free kill, and then he can actually rotate in con side if he wants to. Really solid defensive half here from Dark Zero right now. G2 tried to play that game again where they go fast, they fully commit, and for the most part, it actually wasn't that bad. They were able to get through logistics, got the player down in towards Jim. It just came down to a 1v2 retake.
It really is. Now, if you're getting worried for G2 right now, there are statistics here that say you shouldn't. Clubhouse is a 66% defensive win rate so far in terms of favors, so we can say that this might be statistically the expected outcome. But looking at the rounds, they've been very close, very back and forth. Panda had a big moment where he clutched around single-handedly. Last round, a 2v2 or 2v3 with DC as well. So, yeah, sure, statistics is one thing, but performance in the server is ultimately the defining factor.
Bolo over towards Rafters. Again, it's not really a Rafters position that's overly defensive, although this time they've got the Wamai through Pambasu, so you can get those magnets over to just help. There's Virtue trying to get open this main breach in the old conventional way of the Maverick, open it up and then soft wall, but it's Doki watching as well on the Brava, has those clutch drones available. Only 1 left is what I can see. Not sure how he's used those so early on. Regardless though, for G2, primary focus here is to maybe see if they can catch anyone out over towards the red side. Of course, there's no bandit in play, and Doki does get the kill onto Nave. So really nicely executed there from G2. Had a plan. Plan comes to fruition. Still a bit of that red stance control. And the swing in response there from Pambasu. Was that necessary? Uno watching.
What's active? No, I mean, they know Master Bedroom Default hasn't been shot, so they have to assume there's a lot of people outside Garage and CT Breach. When your Maverick can open a wall and nothing else is happening, there's no way you think there's no cover, so DC, they're throwing their bodies away this round.
Yeah, they certainly are. Credit, though, to G2. Certainly more of a playstyle-centric round from them rather than that super rush-heavy style. NGR tries to contest. Bolo's up in flames. A round, though, up in flames for Dark Zero. That was exquisite from G2.
It was. I mean, you know, we all have been here where you go CCTV, it's not a great bomb site per se, and if the enemy has the right response, like, for example, like Cameron's off a catwalk, and Merrick for the main breach, you're thinking strategically, this round is falling apart. We need to try and go for kills, but I'm not really entirely sure about that circumstance for Dark Zero. They still had 3 Toxic Babes, they had a C4, they had Evil Eyes, and they hadn't lost character control yet. They could have surely sat for a little bit longer there before throwing bodies into a breach that wasn't even open.
I think it's a case in that moment of maybe not not trusting the utility that you have, right? Because you're kind of just looking at it as like, oh, we've lost one. Okay, the main breach gets a nice kill, opens it up 5 versus 4. Lovely little play. The response then is to like, okay, can we trade off that? Because they've got extra players there, I'll run out garage, see if I can get one, run back in. But what that then does is it snowballs in the opposite direction. Suddenly then it's a 5-on-3. Then you've got like NJR at that point inside of CCTVs thinking, well, I may as well take the fight and see if I can get a couple of kills here, because otherwise now the utility is not going to be as effective. Big round for G2, probably. I mean, par for the course. You mentioned, what was it, 66% defensive win rate? So I think, you know, 2-4 in favor of Dark Zero, if that does eventuate, as of course Basement has unlocked again, is probably the pass mark for both teams.
Yeah, no, that is really it. Very important round for both teams, of course, to get on the right side of the scoreboard here. And a 3-3 half just means that it's very much a tight game, just like on Chalet. And it will come down to how good are you on the attacking side? How good are you at problem solving these difficult rounds with the current utility meta that we might see with, you know, something like the Fenris, the Asamis, who's currently banned from this map. But for what it's been on Clubhouse so far, it's not been all that much of those power cube operators. Solo's only played 2 rounds from DC so far. It's more been about the Warden, the Mirror, and of course C4 and smokes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think also versatility. We've seen a lot of this Capitao in play too, and either can bring the secondary hard breaches or the secondary EMPs. The incendiaries are really good at clearing out positions, the smokes as well. So we're really seeing that be utilized by G2. It's been super successful. The Maverick as well from Virtue, we've seen open up stock hatch and then push down himself, so he's able to then play kind of solo. We do see the Jackal clear as well up above from G2, so definitely just being a bit more checklisty in this particular round, but that's pretty much been the case for them here on Clubhouse so far. They're not really doing anything unconventional. When they go fast, and we've seen that, and that sort of execute heavy play style, but they still do everything else necessary before that.
Yeah, we saw this time that G2 did not get a flying drone inside a master bedroom in the prep phase, and there were jammers denying information. So they're thinking, okay, they might actually go for a roam this time. Let's attack a repeat onto the Jackal so that in case they're roaming, we can find them and get those kills. Well, turns out Dark Seer, they played that mind game successfully, because now you force somebody onto an operator solely for the roam clear, but there is no roam clear to be had. So G2 getting less value out of their operator lineup, or what are they missing now? No Ying in play. It's just the Capitao and regular good old gun operators to secure this round for G2, and it is that 3-3 or 4-2 half, so this is a great mind game play from DC.
Yeah, again, defensively for Dark Zero, playing out of dirt, playing deep in the backside of Arsenal, right? So they're not really going for that roam or looking really for any kind of pressure. We're not seeing anyone push main stairs, go for these peaks up above, try and maybe get someone off guard over towards Kitchen. They are very much firmly sitting sight and waiting for G2 to push them. That's fine, but G2 have already shown so much proficiency, not just in this map, but really in this series, in being able to clear out these positions. You want to contest, you want to make it difficult to come down this hatch, but every time you peek, you don't know what you're going to be looking at. And Virtue gets aggressive. Proxy alarm gives. How does he not die to that? Turns around for the proxy, but Bambazu just wasn't ready for it on the backside of the generator. And that's the smoke now gone. 30 seconds opens up a pathway for G2.
Such a great play. Get the mirror in the walk down staircase, get that kill, but also attack church at the same time. But G2 are everywhere right now.
Who's watching wall? Who's watching triple here? This is
no one.
Free push in for Doki. They're so concerned for the blue push, which is what G2 have shown pretty much every other time on this particular site. That Doki's just walked straight in, gets the plant down. They can watch that from main stairs. G2 have just slaughtered Dark Zero offensively in this round. Doki with a double. It's only Canadian just left. How has he gone from dirt up towards kitchen? I got no idea. Nevertheless, though, G2 are about to make it 3-3 as Canadian gets shut down by Uno. What a sensational round from G2.
Do you know what I did? That's such a classic Uno phrase. I used to hear that all the time. He also like, he wants to say, I did a good job here, listen to me. But strategically, what G2 did in that final attacking round was basically, that began in the very first opening round where they attacked blue on the very first opening basement attack. 2 rounds later, they attack basement again. They also go for a mostly blue-oriented take. 3rd time comes around, they fake the blue take, but with full commitment, because Virtue, he gets down, he gets the kill, and he stays in that area. But this time around, it's a 3-man church take instead. So they are completely in Dark Zero's head, and the thing is, because there's no intel operators this time around, like a Maestro, an Echo, or Valkyrie, DC had to again make assumptions. Okay, Virtue's down blue, it's gotta be a blue push. JK, it's not, but they don't know any better, they like intel.
Yeah, really, really good split attack there from G2. Pays dividends. They get the round, a third attacking round on Clubhouse. Now really puts them in the driver's seat as they switch over to the defense, and this is where they are now favored in. I know the scoreboard says 3-3, Penguin, but realistically and statistically, G2 are very much in front right now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Getting a 3-3 half with the current defensive side victories on average, this is a massive win for the team that started on the attack. And very different order lineup here from G2 compared to Dark Zero. First of all, they're roaming top 4 on a basement defense. They're playing Solus, Valkyrie, and Mossy, as well as Fenrir. So basically 5 entirely different operators than that of Dark Zero. And DC, they got the same attacker lineup as G2 did. They got, the hard breaching in the Maverick. They got the side executing the Ying. They got, Buck Verticality. They got Jackal for their own clear. You need, if you're Dark Zero right now, to find opening kills. They don't have as much utility. They don't have a capital. They don't have as many ways to problem solve around this. So if you're DC right now, you're looking at going relatively quickly here and ideally getting a kill.
Towards Secret, it is Benja that gets that opening kill onto Nave. One of the hard breaches gone. Well, there's the second hard breacher gone. This is a disaster of a start in terms of the second half of Dark Zero. Pampersu maybe just thinking, let's just go fast here. This is not really what we want to play in the roam game. That side should be a little bit more vulnerable. The Fenrir don't mind though how effective is that. The visibility becomes 0. Virtue plays that perfectly on the Fenrir, and they know there's another one coming out of dirt. They're into sight. What is Polo looking at? It's a 4 versus 1. Virtue was just in blue. He just killed your teammate. You're not even looking in that direction. Virtue has just played that perfectly. One of the star players in this series hasn't really made many mistakes.
That was absurd. So the near side from the Fenrir mine basically means that Pampersu can't see the blue rotate, and Virtue is completely blinded by the Candela, so they pass and cross each other, but Virtue, of course, the better positioning.
All right, well, you're back in action, and on your screen, the highlights from Bliss versus Dplus Kia. It was mostly the Bliss show, Michael. 7-3, the scoreline for Bliss on their own map. And I hate to beat the drum because, believe me, I am no drummer whatsoever. But we are in a current meta where the defenders are just so much better equipped to handle things. So the fact that Bliss was able to win 4 rounds on attack is quite damning.
Yeah, I mean, the meta's one thing, but I will say the way in which Dplus actually approached the majority of their attacks was kind of irrelevant to the meta itself. They were very, very slow in getting into things, and, meta aside, that's always going to make things difficult when you need to be the side to show initiative. So it was tough from Dplus. They took their tactical timeout as well very, very, very late into the piece and didn't have much of an opportunity to make any more mistakes. Obviously, eventually, they did slip up, and Bliss were there to capitalize, and that was probably one of the positives for Bliss, is every time that Dplus did put a foot wrong, they were always there ready to punish. Standout player, of course, being Wettables, very quickly obtaining double digits. Plenty of multi-kills for him throughout the game. A big confidence builder for a player that doesn't have a whole lot of international experience.
Yeah, when you look at this consulate map that's coming up, I honestly, the big things for Dplus Kia are, A, you have to work on your strategy, but the gunplay just wasn't there. And the stats on your screen right now show you that. D-Mally 2-9, Soldier 3-8, Coded 4-8, of which 2 of those 4 kills came in the very first round. So, your gunplay, not good. Yas showed up, I think it was in the final round, he got 2 kills or whatever, to go positive. He was 7-7, ended up finishing off 9-7. On the other side of the equation, Bliss did not look like they really struggled much with gunfights. They didn't really look like they were ever getting frustrated with this Dplus Kia team, which is very surprising. Oh, apparently
Did you just die?
No, my mic did, apparently. I don't know what happened.
My ears almost exploded.
I'm sorry for those of you at home if that was very, very loud.
It's okay.
I don't know what happened there.
I do want to put on my tinfoil hat though for a second, because we were talking before, you mentioned it right, about Dplus, their very public tweet, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, talking about how their roster is probably not going to be around for much longer, at least not these 5. I would love to know what the sentiment inside of this team is at the moment, because in Rainbow Six, it's been like this since day 0. You have to have full trust in your team to be successful, and they simply will not have that at the moment, and it makes it very, very difficult to have results go your way. So I'm a bit concerned for them, and honestly, as much as it may be a motivating factor for players to play well to ensure they have a contract for this year, it could also be unnecessary pressure that they may not rise, to that bar that's been set.
Yeah, I mean, there always seems to be this period of time, it's usually about a month or 2 after an event ends, that rumors start to emerge that, hey, this team actually knew, or this player actually knew that playing in this event, they would not be brought on, any while longer. Go all the way back. I remember when Young was on CTM, and CTM ended up losing an event, and I think Young ended up going to what would eventually be that rogue roster before coming back to the team. And there was, comments back then about how they knew that they were going to drop him, and he knew that he was going to, leave the team. And you're playing kind of under that dark cloud, right? And if you're a player on Dplus Kia, I have to imagine that it is somewhat motivating because you want to keep your spot. But there is a very clear hierarchy so far through this event, I would argue, of these Dplus Kia roster players, right? There are players who know their value, and then there are your bubble players that you are probably the ones that are going to be moved off of the team, and you're probably being targeted with that tweet. So, yeah, it can be quite defeating for some of these players, and they come in and there's, very limited motivation. I have spoken to teams at events that have flat out told me, I know I'm getting, like a player on a team will say, I know I'm getting dropped after this event. Why am I really going to try? Why am I trying for them to succeed when I'm not going to be able to, bear those fruits? So, obviously, you'd have to talk to the players on Dplus Kia. As far as I'm aware, you don't speak Korean. I don't speak Korean.
I thought you were about to say, before that previous sentence, that you had been speaking to the Dplus team, and I was about to be incredibly perplexed.
Yeah. No, I don't. I can't just learn a language in 2 days like Carter can.
You can talk a lot, but exclusively in English as far as I'm aware.
That's correct. I don't speak any other language other than English. And sometimes if you listen to me cast, I barely speak English as well. Operator bans are in Guzzler. Dokkaebi and Valkyrie banned by Dplus Kia. Bliss banning that Solus, as they always do. And then Ying as well, removed from action. Very first bomb site will be the top floor here on Consulate.
Yeah, the ban phase doesn't strike me as being particularly abnormal. Oda does take a lick of damage to open up the round. He's playing down below inside of that lounge area. He does have a Nitro in pocket, so you suspect that he may play for plant denial if push comes to shove on the objective. Boogeyman is in position, though, to punish a rotation back towards the objective if he so elects, and in fact, he will now push forward. Dplus have a read on this particular position. I'm not entirely convinced, as nobody at the moment outside of Coded is on drones. I'm not entirely sure where said drone is at the moment, but Boogeyman is going exploring at the moment, a long way away from the objective. Coded does have a little bit of information available. You can see him coming on the player cam. I don't know how useful, though, that is going to necessarily be for the team. And as we eclipse the first minute of the round, Dplus still struggling, still grappling for a bit of map control.
Looking up the stats right now for Consulate. I have them in front of my very eyes. This is unsurprisingly a defender-sided map. It's been played. Yeah, I know. Trust me.
I trust it.
Okay. Consolate's been played 5 times so far. It has the lowest pick rate of any map so far in this event. 60% of the rounds have broken for the defenders. Main bomb site of CEO meeting, on which we are currently tussling, actually has a defender-sided bend, as defenders or attackers win it 55% of the time. But still, that's pretty much a coin flip. Every other round is favorite, or every other bomb site will favor the defenders. So I imagine when we're off of this bomb site, every other round. See, remember when I said I can't speak English? There's your example for today. Very, very slow round. Not much of a surprise. The fact that Dplus Kia has been able to exert so much influence onto these players of Bliss, damaging them, is really quite the surprise here. The approach will come from the east side of the building. Toxic canisters to go off, and there will the bees go, still just waiting out the smoke. 35 seconds remaining in this execute.
Oh, I almost fell asleep because this push is taking an age. Finally, it does come through. A 4 versus 4. Brendo front desk actually will be taken down. Unanswered, of course, as Bliss is split. Fisher is in the objective itself. Can reposition close to the doorway with the shotgun in hand, and may well be a challenge to clear. 10 seconds now on the clock. Dplus with limited utility. Oda's good for 1. Oh, I thought that was almost a headshot, but doesn't land, nor does that. But Yas has been left all alone, no time. Dplus taking way too long to wind up that attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to have a defender-sided map, and it's one thing to be slow and methodical on your entry, and it's entirely another to end up in the circumstances that Dplus Kia was in it. They clear out that first floor. They drone out the bottom floor. They do both those relatively quickly, and then they immediately pivot upstairs. With roughly about 2 minutes left, Dplus Kia goes up into admin, and they want to move from that east portion of the map on over. But what tools do you have to flush out long desk? I mean, you've got a Flores, you've got a Finka, you've got grenades. Like, even if grenades are weaker, the way that teams use grenades now are they'll throw a grenade out and then follow up on the fact that the grenade will effectively zone somebody out. Throw the grenade, the player sitting there will obviously move out of the way, and then you have an active player, almost kind of like an explosive drone, to catch them. But Dplus Kia were too slow on spiral stairs. They didn't really have any presence on that bathroom window. They weren't able to take control of admin, and then once they did, or rather, they weren't able to do anything with the control that they had in admin. And it just looked so listless. So, kind of back to what we saw in Chalet. The Dplus Kia squad has some serious challenges. And with the way this meta looks, and I've seen some chatter online discussing this in particular, with the way that the meta works right now, defenders don't even really need to be that active on a lot of these maps. You can just kind of sit there and wait, which is outside of that early roam where we saw, I think it was Oda and Wettables take some damage. Outside of that, Bliss just kind of sat inside the site and waited very patiently for Dplus Kia. And the chatter that we've seen online is, oh, everybody's so negative about what's not being done. But the problem is that the defenders are winning most of these rounds. And half of the rounds the defenders are winning seems like they're doing very minimal. So of course we're going to talk about what's not being done, because if we were to talk about what the defenders are doing, you'd fall asleep like Michael did. And like Michael actually has just now. He's currently asleep at the moment.
Listening to you is
Okay.
like an overdose of melatonin, really.
Thank you. You saying I have a nice voice? Oh, Oda dies early, by the way.
Drone spinning up.
I think you're twisting my words, but
No, I'm choosing to infer something, which you may not have implied, but I'll take it either way.
you're right. Oda does fall. Will this perhaps expedite the push a little bit for Dplus? Keeping in mind, we are actually over towards Piano for round number 2. We're selecting not to go downstairs to Garage, so throwing a bit of a spanner in the works. Coded to create a line of sight through that front door position, wall into sight, just to make it a little bit more uncomfortable for Bliss to play on the objective itself. They are currently, though, still employing a bit of a roam. That wall currently actually is muted out by Fish. Soldier should be able to deal with that. He has the shock drone in hand, currently getting active on that at the moment. Brava also in play, so a double drone lineup here. And at times I can be a little bit critical of teams employing that, because it can naturally slow down the attack, because you're obviously focusing on drones for a significant portion of the round. However, you can make up for that in the late round if there is a lack of utility on the board. Soldier trying to deal with that BPC, makes a little bit of a meal of it. Minute now on the clock. Smoke's being deployed. Don't know exactly what space Dplus are looking to take currently. Perhaps looking to contest up above. But at the moment, Bliss playing patient. Sometimes in a 4 versus 5, the defense will try to get active. Maybe manufacture a play.
Yeah.
But I think they have trust in their systems on the site that they can really punish Dplus in the late round like they did last time.
Well, I mean, this is what we talked about, right? The defenders aren't really doing much of anything at this current moment. They're just waiting. They're holding the map control they have. Coded, down but not out for Dplus Kia. Final 30 seconds left, and he gets retrieved, not by a Finka. There's none on the board. It's a manual retrieve. Fisher guy on the hatch above, reducing the rest of Coded to rubble. D-Mally dies now as well at the hands of Brendo as Woogieman taking a beating. Yas's turn to take some damage. The guns for Bliss coming alive. The last 3 players still at full HP. Diffuser going down by Woogieman. Soldier will need to cover over that. Does Bliss know? They're trying to get in. They might be able to. No, Woogieman gets there in time, and then immediately Bliss can hop on that diffuser should they choose. It's off to Soldier, who dies above, and Bliss will have no problem disabling that diffuser and effectively securing the case. Bliss starting off 2-0. A better round overall for Dplus Kia, but still falls short.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't take advantage of that early pick as best they could. They didn't really challenge up above. It meant that those vertical lines of sight from Bliss were particularly effective during that final push, as we alluded to. Defense not really necessarily having to get active. They're just posting up in those positions, waiting for the attack to filter through. The trades from Dplus naturally very challenging as they're looking up, not having advantageous positions. At this point, it was 2 versus 2. 10 seconds on the clock. Dplus, again, still not contesting up above. Probably needing to see them split the attack, right? There needed to be a lurk potential at the very least to contest those defenders on the top floor. not meant to be, and the linearity of these attacks continues for Dplus. For Bliss, though, positive signs so far that they're not looking uncomfortable. Again, sometimes as a defensive unit, you can perhaps get a little bit far ahead of yourselves. Again, manufacture plays, especially at a disadvantage, but they just trust their systems on the site, the setup that they had, and they converted it nicely.
Attacker's objective is to defuse a bomb.
Well, bucking the trend on the top floor bomb site, and then on Piano seeing the same thing happen. All 3 floors have now been visited by the defense of Bliss, as it will be a basement hold. This is probably one of the more familiar sites for the more casual viewers that watch this esport. As I've found, at least from my games that I've played, basement of Consulate tends to be most actively defended and seems to be the most comfortable for your average player.
Is that the silver medal? NA silver medal, which is probably pretty bad.
You're going to talk to me about NA not doing well when you're from APAC?
M80?
They're half percent, and they have a European. That's right. That's right. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Talk to me today when some APAC teams go home, okay? You're Buster.
Well, FearX survived.
That is true.
Surprisingly so.
The only team that's gone home so far, spoilers for those that haven't been paying attention, the only team that has gone home so far is GK, depending on how you pronounce it. First pick is Woogie Man on to Brendo. Minute and a half on in the entry on that first floor. Much stronger. Brendo dying early as the Capkin is not particularly dire, as those traps will remain. But Dplus Kia now knows that there's a Capkin on the board. If Dplus Kia are as slow as they have been in round number 1, those Capkin traps are going to gain some pretty big value. The good news is that you got a Twitch on the board, and that Twitch drone is excellent at shooting the EDDs off of the doorways.
Well, irrespective of this end result, an APAC team will be heading home early. Of course, though, for Dplus, they'll be fighting their way back into this particular series, but it's critical that they convert these advantages. Fisho will fall as well, so for Dplus, it's looking a little bit more positive here in round number 3. Still a pocket of opportunity, though, for Bliss to fight their way back into the round. Sage and Oda, both a long way away from the objective. However, Oda falls. We'll see if Wettables maybe can have an impact on site, but he's going to have to go large alongside Sage. Coated with an exothermic to ensure that the main breach is now opened up, so site exposed. Dplus need to be still a little bit careful, though, at this point in time. Go canister to stall out the breach, so time will be a premium for them in the late round.
Wettables in the lineup on the bottom of Spiral Stairs, but just cannot outduel Yas. Will continue to tear forward as Woogie Man got kill number 1 and will also get kill number 5. Dplus Kia wins their 4th round so far through this series, their first round here on their own map, and they are on the board. Now, if you think about the rotation of how most maps work, your tertiary bomb site is where you expect the defense to lose, right? And most of what we've seen since adopting this 6-round half is that the first 2 bomb sites that teams will go to on defense, usually the 2 most favorable. The 3rd bomb site typically will have the lowest win rate for them. So in that sense, Dplus Kia are doing effectively exactly as they should. However, the fun thing about Consulate is that the only bomb site that is unfavorable on this entire map to the defenders is the top floor bomb site, which was the first one that Bliss won. It's where they're going back to now. And the bottom floor bomb site of Garage is actually won 63% of the time by the defenders and is the 2nd most played bomb site. So the fact that it is so lopsided in favor of defenders and is played so frequently suggests that it shouldn't be a tertiary bomb site. Bliss obviously handled it that way, and there are teams that sometimes like to go to unconventional bomb sites early on to catch their opponents tripping. Dplus Kia was caught tripping in those first 2 rounds, but they managed to beat the numbers on Garage. Now, back upstairs, Bliss will go for their 4th defense.
So we'll see what the approach then here is from Dplus. They are employing the buck, so anticipating maybe some vert pressure down below. You can see the yellow pings early on in the piece. So Dplus perhaps looking to get a little bit more proactive than we have seen previously. That said, in the previous round, they're able to snatch the first 2 kills, convert it nicely. And Woogie, you can see him comment, trying to cook something up in this particular round. Oda, though, does have his own line of sight down below, so he's conscious in that box position. Boogeyman doesn't commit to a play, at least not yet. We'll play it quite safe for now as Oda elects to retreat back towards top yellow. A key position for the defense that can be locked down, of course, close range, and reliant on the attack and being able to flush out that spot with a bit of utility and some good coordination. Meanwhile, elsewhere, main breach is where Coded will play. He did have the diffuser in hand, but he'll rotate that off now. So indicative that Dplus, again with the buck down below, underneath CEO inside of Piano, might be looking to go for quite a direct push. Absolutely no emphasis whatsoever on the opposite side of the map for now, which could be to the demise of Dplus. They haven't shown a willingness to set up a lurker on the attack to split these pushes. Instead, very much head on.
There are the bees, there are the track stingers, there's the lion charge, but they don't seem to use it as effectively as they wanted to. Coda gets one pick onto Sage, but that's all they get out of such a huge expenditure of their utility. If you're just going to dump gadgets like Dplus did, typically you want to be able to follow up on it relatively quickly, and I didn't really see that.
They just didn't have a good dumpy.
I guess that's so. I guess they could have a better dumpy, because that's correct. Very good.
This is typically where you would talk. It's quite late in the round.
Oh, is that? Okay, I understand. See, thank you
Not
for...
to mansplain casting,
but I appreciate it nonetheless. D-Mally is in with diffuser in hand. Wedables dies as well. Fisho guy goes down, and I might have been critical of this, but Coded's got all 3 kills so far in the round. He's dead to Brendo, and now Oda will swing out as they look onto that diffuser, but there's nobody that they can dispatch down below just yet. Both Brendo and Oda are last alive, and Woogie Man gets the other 2. You play cards, that's a full house. 3 kills from Coda, 2 from Woogie Man. And Dplus Kia have won 2 in a row now and tied the game.
I was a little bit scared that I was going to look silly then when I threw it to you. I was probably not anticipating the push to come in that very moment, but Dplus, nice and proactive, able to execute that play with, you know, a nice buffer of time remaining. Woogieman ended up actually being a key stakeholder in the round there for Dplus. He didn't really cover a whole lot of ground. Instead, stationed down below, but did a good job in clearing a bit of space. And then, of course, able to confirm that the post plant was favorable for the attack. So the direct approach there from Dplus works out. A couple of rounds now strung together by the Koreans. And just as I thought this match might peter out a little bit, to be frank, I think Dplus have done an okay job in keeping competitive. And as we've mentioned, 2 attacks. With the state of the meta at the moment and how defender decided is, not all that shabby for them at the moment. We'll see, of course, if they can maybe perhaps pile on a 3rd, maybe even a 4th as well. And then I think at that point, Bliss will sting, or feel the sting, a little bit more.
5 seconds remaining.
Bliss did not choose this map. Dplus Kia did, so Bliss gets to start on the side that they feel most comfortable on. Again, if you go back to the numbers, 60% means that you're typically going to see a team win 2 rounds on attack. And, well, a really early altercation almost knocks Bliss onto their heels for what is a relatively crucial round. Fisho guy down to half HP. That's not an ideal start. And it looked like he was engaging bottom of yellow towards garage. Take some damage. Nobody from Dplus Kia has a single scratch on them. I like the pulse choice from Wedables quite a lot. There's a ton of information that you can get on this map from a pulse because you can see through those floors, you can get angles outside, and you can cover a lot of the bomb sites as well. Wedables starting off this map 1 and 3 is a far cry from what we saw from him on Chalet.
Well, Woogie has spotted out Wedables down below. Bit of a quieter game from Wet this time around. Only the single pick thus far. As we enter the 5th round, and his head almost ripped off by Woogie. He's looking sharp at the moment. A flash to come through. Now the push almost catches the heels of the pulse as he scurries away to main. Weta was probably quite content that he was able to escape. Main now re-aggress low, sensing that he needs to apply pressure on this part of the map.
Well, gunplay has been so good for Dplus through these last 2 rounds, and if it continues to the level that we have seen, then Bliss will have their hands full. Dplus has always been a team that can fire back, so seeing them as listless as they were on Chalet was a bit of a surprise, and listless throughout much of SI, in fact, has been an even greater surprise. Coded is rewarded for his success in the previous round by getting this one off. The Ash is removed with just a little bit over a minute remaining. And now it's up to Yas to lead the charge, but that F0 will give his position away as he marches through and, well, manages to survive without a single point of damage being done to him. Decides to engage Brendo, though. 3 players from Bliss, all licking their chops as Yas gets finished off by Wettables. D-Mally outside.
Oh.
Wettables dies after the Brava had actually taken those EDDs on the door frame that you saw him walking through before. I love the trickster up of Brava. Final 30 seconds. E1D goes off. Bliss in an advantage. 4v3, but Dplus so close to being able to get that diffuser down.
Soldier, well, he's the one deep in towards site. Fortunately for Dplus, the attack unraveled just as they started to build a bit of momentum in the series. Damali with a last-ditched attempt to gain some control. He'll go for the pinch with Woogie. Brendo slays him though. Woogie, well, with the skeleton key, good for 1, but with only 3 seconds on the clock, it's not going to amount to much. So Bliss, round number 5 will go their way.
Yeah. You hear him hit the goo mine, you know he's not going to be able to sprint. There's 4 seconds left. There's a couple of you left. Just go hide at that point. You can run. They can't. Not unlike me. Woogie Man was incapable of running.
You can't run.
I can, but it would. I'm not very graceful. Also, Woogie Man picks Fuse every single round. Every round. And then swaps off. I appreciate the consistency. As our good friend Carter Lynx would say, it's a bit.
Well,
Attackers need to locate and
good
defuse
friend
as many
is-
bombs as they can.
Let's do some heavy lifting here.
it's a stretch.
Yeah. Oh, unless they've changed the definition of the words good and friend. So, Blitz recover in that round, and it also means that the piano bomb site will be locked for this round. 2 for 2, Bliss, on the main floor. Instead of trying the garage again, Bliss will go back upstairs to CEO. Bomb site will now have been played 3 times. And Dplus Kia is going to run a lineup that
10
is
seconds remaining.
very similar to what we saw before.
Discovered the location of a bomb.
You held your breath there, expecting Woogie Man to not switch off of the fuse. I am sorry to tell you that you got jebaited.
Attackers are heading out
You
to
got
defuse a bomb.
jebaited. Woogie Man will go with the buck instead. These are the tools that Dplus Kia brought previously. You're going to have some nades, 4 of them in fact. You've got Hard Breach in the hands of Grim, an operator who has effectively replaced a Hard Breacher for a lot of these lineups. And then you've got the Finka, which I really like, because both of these teams have been so chippy and so scrappy that for the defenders, bringing somebody like a Doc or, God forbid, a Thunderbird, whose pick rate is in the ground at the moment, would actually help you quite a lot. Fisho Guy, just as in the previous round, finds himself taking very early damage, but still surviving with his life intact. If you are a smoke, you typically want to play Sheltered Minutes, because if you die with all 3 of those toxic canisters in pocket, then you are going to be in really rough shape.
So the attacking pattern here from Dplus, a little bit different to last time around. Yas, an emphasis on the opposing side of the map for admin currently, and as you can see, other members of the attack close by to facilitate this push. Less of an emphasis on CEO directly, Piano not occupied by the vert from down below. Boogeyman instead the lobby at the moment, so indicative that it will be a push onto the A site, the meeting bomb site on this occasion. So, as highlighted, Fisho, who took a bit of damage earlier on, will be a key proponent of this defensive hold. He's pushed up a little bit though, in towards manager office, and almost catches Yas off guard, thinks better of it in terms of holding that position, and he'll fall back. Of course, Woogie, as mentioned, he is down below, but doesn't capture the smoke as he retrieves back to site.
Second floor.
I like the way Woogie Man's playing this at the moment. You hear the Yokai drone go off, which means that now the jig is up for this Bliss lineup. They're aware that it is there. Sage, a nice tussle, and now top of Spiral. It gets a little ugly. The Wettable swings onto it. 3 players from Bliss so far taking damage, but they find 2 kills for their troubles. Greatly worthwhile. Kodak drops off of the main floor, and now it's Yas, who isn't able to get himself back up. This is a full court press from Bliss at this point. You know, we were talking about how sometimes the defenders just sit there and wait. That's not the case here. Kodak with 1 kill, Soldier dies, and now Kodak will need to get all of them as the Adrenal Surge wears off. Bliss really taking the fight to Dplus. Kia, great shots from Coded. This is imminently more winnable than it was previously. But there's a Yokai to stop him, as well as Fisho Guy. And the Smoke, who almost died early on, survives to the very final minutes of that round and puts an end to Dplus Kia. Bliss survived a bit of a scare. First half, 4-2 in favor of the Aussies.
Yep, I think Bliss will be relatively content in the way in which that half has played out for them. Dplus did try a couple of different things. I mean, that objective most notably, flipping the attacking push, but it didn't work out. They were unable to clear a lot of those key points of the map. It was proving to be a challenge, time then becoming an issue. And despite the efforts from Woogieman down below, dislodging the defense proved to be quite the challenge, and it meant that those remaining attackers, the likes of Admin, the Reach as well, were not entering favorable engagements, and that's often the name of the game for the attack, is to switch the favor your way, as you always have to show initiative. Round 7 though we go, so sides flip. Bliss now on the attack. And I'm eager to see what kind of compositions these guys are going to bring out in this particular matchup. Brava being teased initially, but falls off onto, I was going to say IQ, but now Yana ultimately Wedables onto the Blitz. Now we've seen this a little bit throughout the tournament so far, and Wedables' success has been somewhat mixed, but there have been occasions that I can cast my mind back to where he's been able to force himself into key positions, make the defense feel uncomfortable. And that, again, name of the game at the moment for the attack, in unlocking these rounds and being able to dictate the pace a little bit more than you otherwise would be able to.
Now, just a bit of a spoiler as to what's going on the A stream. Cover your ears if you don't want to hear it. Dark Zero and G2 were squaring off. And it was Xenox and I believe Nick who were casting it, if memory serves me correctly. Well, G2 won 2 matches. Flawless group stage for G2. And they are back in fine form. There's just something about this event. There's something about SI and G2. I don't know what it is, but they just always seem to level up at this event and take the rest of the year off. I have to get in my digs at them.
A little bit harsh.
I don't think so. They're
And they lift the
tremendously good
hammer
team.
again though, that is the ultimate question.
Yeah.
For that.
Nitro Cell on the side of a Kiba barrier is something we've seen a couple times throughout this event. We just got a witness to it. Almost killing Sage as he's on Repel. There's going to be some discomfort felt by Dplus Kia now as the Buck sets up shop underneath, and Oda starts to tear away at some of the floor around them.
Curious to keep an eye on Wedables here though. Probably looking to drop Skylight, make this push through the E1D to initiate the push. And here it comes, the sprint through, but he's immediately denied by Coded. It's a double with the SMG as Fisho dives back outside the objective. It's fallen apart for Bliss, and to the credit of Dplus, they've done a really, really good job in shutting that down.
You were talking about how Fisho Guy, or Wedables rather, usually gets double kills. Well, Coded's also been doing that too. Right? 8 kills for him, leading the way on his team at the moment. Picks up 2 in this round, had 2 in the previous round. A couple rounds ago had 2. Coded showing up huge. It's a far more brawl-heavy consulate than we're used to seeing so far. Down goes Fisho Guy, and it's all up to Brendo. Dplus Kia have just a single kill to find, but Brendo's not a bad shot. He'll take these gunfights, knowing D Malley's on yellow stairs. Chunk him up, Soldier low on HP. If there was more time, I would say this is more winnable. Every single player in the lobby, if you add them together, equals 1 regular player of 100 HP. This is winnable for Brendo. All he needs to do is ensure he finds these players quickly because time is running away from him. And he swings, he knows that one was there, and unfortunately he gets siege timed as he un-ADSs the moment that the player from Dplus Kia gets into his line of sight, and Soldier lives to fight another day. A successful first defense for Dplus Kia. And you're right. They were quite aggressive in comparison to what we saw out of Bliss. There was a lot more of a roam dedicated by Dplus than we saw from their adversaries. And if you're not droning it out, you're going to keep finding yourself being surprised by the results that end up coming your way. Need a couple more rounds like that for Dplus Kia as they still look for the very first map win of this event. Bliss wins Consulate, and Dplus Kia goes home without having won a single map at the Six Invitational. A pretty devastating result. A lot of pressure will fall on their shoulders round by round as we go through Consulate. This is their map choice. But they've also had a map choice through every single other matchup that they've played and still have not come out on the right side of a win.
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing for Dplus is looking at a lot of those results. You're looking at a 2-round scoreline, a 3-round scoreline, etc., etc. The average for Dplus has been hovering around that 3-round mark across 3 matches, 6 maps. Pretty damning statistic. On the topic of stats, in that previous round, of course, we saw Coded with a huge 2K to really spearhead the defense for Dplus heading into the day. He was the 2nd lowest rated player on the team, but currently going toe-to-toe with Woogieman in terms of frags this time. He has certainly been having a good event himself. +7 on entry for Woogie, and continues to be a formidable force this time around as well. So it's main breach from the Thermite, Castle Barricade leading into yellow as well. It's a split push though from Bliss, an emphasis on the backside as well. And it's Fisho on the shield this time around Monty in play. And as we mentioned before, Woogie has been a fantastic player for Dplus Kia at the event so far. And guess who's going to play first? Contact, it's Woogie! Drops the diffuser and Fisho left rolling his eyes.
Fisho was trying to melee the door, but Woogie is prepped and ready for that. And man, oh man, Monty can be such a challenge to kill, but when he presents his head, that's quite a big target for you to hit. Sage almost dies as well over towards Visa as he tries to get the hatch down into Archives, but is unsuccessful. It actually looks like the hatch is still fully reinforced, which if that's the case, you are in serious trouble because there's no hard breach for you at all to bail out this team. Bliss now falling by the wayside. They are in the site, or at least Wettables is, who almost goes for the vault over, but they're just sprinting. No information, no wherewithal. There's still 6 drones remaining, and there's a minute and a half of the round. There's really no reason why you can't gain information. Tremendously sloppy by Bliss. Because of that, Dplus have tied the game. Timeout called by Bliss.
Yeah, I think they probably need attack after that particular effort. Unfortunate, I guess, somewhat for Fish. He smacks the barricade. Woogie hits a nice shot, fair enough. But then Bliss looking to flood site. Limited information despite drones being available. Add on top of that the fact that mirror windows were still left standing meant that those gunfights were never going to be favorable, sprinting aside. Unfortunate for Bliss. A 4-4 scoreline though. And I will say that in comparison to Dplus, they've probably taken this tactical timeout at a far more appropriate time. There's still plenty of opportunities for Bliss to get this one across the line on attack. On the side of Dplus though, the storyline continues that Woogieman continues to be a threat inside of the server. And for Bliss, that's been one of the, I guess, big marks on their record at the event so far, is they've constantly come up against a strong individual. It was Deadshot, well, pardon me, it was Mowgli against the Wolves. He farmed J90 from SSG. Both had big stat lines, and Bliss just couldn't shut it down. Obviously, Woogie's is not quite as extravagant as those were, but just something to keep in mind that if there's a star player for Dplus throughout this map, and perhaps even a third, that Bliss need to find the systems to counter that.
You obviously watch Dplus Kia quite intently as you cover these regions over there. D-Mally has, I think, a combined 3 or 4 kills so far through both of these maps. But as the application of D-Mally and his operators suggests that this is a very poor scoreline for him. Would you agree?
5 seconds left
Yes.
before insertion.
Well, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that heading into the day, he was by far and away the lowest rated at .66. And if I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd probably say that's one of, if not the lowest rated at the event. It's unfortunate for him. And again, it goes back to the storyline that we were talking a little bit about before. Does that mean that his head is on a chopping block for the new and renewed Dplus Kia roster heading into 2024?
What is going on here? Oh my gosh. Yas goes for the run out onto the balcony, top floor, kills Wettables. And if you look at the lineup, it was the can opener being brought by Wettables. That secondary hard breach gadget. Bliss decided to forego a traditional hard breacher and instead put it all on the shoulders of the Grim, and now that is gone, so it was all for naught. Ignoring the fact that Bliss is now down a player, which in and of itself is huge, especially when you're dealing with a defender-sided map, but you also have the problem of there being no can opener. Excellent pulse, by the way, that we saw down below of Woogieman to give information to Coded, who then capitalizes by picking off the Nook of Oda, who has been quite ineffective for Bliss throughout this matchup. Dplus Kia now sit 5v3 with a minute 40 to go.
And this is where, as a defensive unit, you look to consolidate and not give away anything for free to the attack. No charity work for Dplus. Woogie down below. A Nitro Cell off the back of the information available on Pulse. He follows that up to onto Sage, over towards main stairs with the UMP. And the stage is now set for a flawless round from Dplus. Now keep in mind, Bliss just took their tactical timeout. And we emphasize this a lot, the effectiveness of tactical timeouts in Siege, and more often than not, teams will take their tack and then actually respond with a round win post that. Certainly not the case here. They will have a minute, though, to chill on the roof and have an unofficial tactical timeout. And
2 timeouts in a row. I mean, it's quite a... That's quite an occasion, isn't it?
yeah, double down on likely what was said only a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah. These teams think that Consulate is bad to attack on. Just wait. If Clubhouse ends up popping up next,
Ooh.
that will be quite miserable for whichever teams end up on attack first, and then you'll just have to come back, which we've seen is possible. I mean, if you watch the Wolves FaZe Clan game, you know that anything is possible. Really.
Well, we did have a 0-6 comeback as well.
I was going to say the liquid W7M game.
On this map too, I believe.
Yeah. It's been a very frustrating tournament, I imagine, for Liquid. That whole group is... It's quite unpredictable. I mean, Virtus Pro defeating W7M yesterday was a surprise. For some people, probably a welcome surprise. Or 2 days ago, was it? So. Dplus Kia win the round, though. But we knew that minutes before it actually ended up happening because it was a 5v1. Dplus Kia lose one player on the run out, and then the last member of Bliss dies. So you take your timeout and it doesn't work. You actually almost get flawless. The only reason why you got a kill in the first place was because somebody from Dplus Kia decided to get a bit impatient and run out and die to a Claymore. If it weren't for that, you get flawless right after your own timeout. That's quite dreadful. Bad luck for Bliss. And honestly, bad luck. That round was pretty much over when the Grim died early. At that point, you don't have any hard breach whatsoever. You've also lost a really critical piece of intel with those Bs that you can shoot out, and obviously will show you where the defenders are playing. So things fall apart, and things fall apart in quite a hurry. I am curious if we're going to see yet another early attack from Dplus Kia through these windows as Bliss runs up to the building. As it looked like Coded was sitting on cams. It's entirely possible that the Kaid wants to go for a pick. No, that's not the case.
But again, right, it goes back to the point that Bliss need to be putting Woogieman on an island and really punishing him. If they have any window of opportunity to get him off the board, it's such a huge win condition for the attack, given that he has been particularly proficient in the frag department. We'll see how they go this time around. Posturing over towards admin to kick things off. Unfortunately for Bliss, that's where his army is posted up, so those keeper barriers will make this push a little bit of a challenge. We'll see the Grim in response to help aid in the information gathering for Bliss, which was certainly a positive for them on map number 1, as you mentioned. They were gathering information, but more importantly, on top of that, also acting accordingly. Track stings to come through from Wettables, and so too is Brendo. He's found his way through into manager's office, uncontested. Sometimes you see the defense look to hold this up close. Not the case though from Dplus. They've fallen back towards this vending hallway. And I think that this particular part of the round, or this particular part of the map more specifically, will dictate who wins this out. If Bliss are able to clear these positions, win the trade game, they'll be set up for that final push. But if Dplus can cut them down, bringing it back on the attacking side will be tough.
Both of the gadgets tossed out by the sands of Sens get caught by magnets, and now you don't exactly have them go where you want them to. So Dplus Kia will sort of buffet this push, slow down their advance. Fisher guy stopped by the electricity on the panel and have to go elsewhere with both of those can openers now. Azami showing her value, and this again just goes back to those operator bans. You ban Solus, you ban Valkyrie, it means that you're going to have Fenrir and Azami available, it means that you're going to have Aruni available, it means that you're going to have Tubaru available, if you want to use him. Oh my. These magnets are everywhere all at the same time. It also catches a grenade now. I have to imagine there's some frustration setting in from Bliss, but they strike first in this round, taking down Soldier.
Shield, though, still standing. Damali, only 1 kill in 9 rounds, but now he needs to find a couple. The frag grenade awkwardly positioned at his feet, but able to escape as Yas looks to swing, but the air jab will put a stop to that. Damali needs to go big here for Dplus. Now trapped, position known. The line is held. I don't know how he's going to get out of here, but he does in the end.
What?
And it completely falls apart for Team Bliss. I don't know how Dplus have got that one across the line, but they forced themselves through, or Dplus attempted to force themselves through, and Dplus just absolutely cut them to pieces.
Now, it might seem silly because of where Dmally was positioned by the vending machine that you can't just push Dmally, right, and get the kill. No. Because of the setup from Dplus Kia, they're holding those long-range angles. So the moment you try to do that, you're going to get cut down from the cross, and that's exactly what we saw ultimately come to pass.
Need to locate and defuse
I don't
as
know
many
if
bombs as
it's
they can.
deficiency in droning or just the fact that they are not particularly interested in droning it out. But if you recall, this bomb site right here, the bottom floor bomb site, garage, the last time that Bliss executed onto this site, I mentioned that there were 6 drones remaining with a minute and a half to go. But Bliss were face-checking everything from the start of the round onward. And yes, it's hard to get onto drones when you've lost 2 players and suddenly it's a 5v3, but you can still always drone 1 person in, or at least you can try to drone. They didn't do that. The round that just happened, again, big issues from Bliss when it came to drone work and information. There was no immediate follow-up on that grenade. You allow Dmally to completely move out of that spot. You don't do anything to address projector. You don't do anything to address that cross that was established. And you just sit there. And then when you do finally decide to push it, Dplus Kia has waited for you and punishes you accordingly. Dplus Kia's gunplay on Consulate, by the way, has been so much better than it was on Chalet. Miles and miles better. And strategy obviously is something that can be talked about until we're blue in the face. But Dplus Kia have woken up, and they're hitting their shots the way that we expect one of the best teams in APAC to do.
I think that's why I was spluttering my words a little bit there, because logic would dictate that Bliss should have won that previous round.
Oh, absolutely.
However, just a couple of mistakes compounded, and yeah, as you mentioned, right, Dplus are, unlike the last map, looking very mechanically sound, and we're able to make those positions work. But the key man, it's Woogie Man. The first to fall here on the match point round for Dplus. So now the pressure transferred to the remaining 4 members of the defense. Coded in piano as a bit of a castle setup to play around. Looking to hold this vertical control. Bliss going though from the top floor down. They're looking to greet him in this position. Fisho good for 2 with the F2 this time around. So good work from Bliss in applying pressure despite the odds being against them at the moment on this map. Damali, Soldier, a 2v5. And this round all but over.
You got a Nitro Cell, you got 2 impacts, and you still have 4 Kiba barriers in pocket for Dmally. No more Kiba barriers will be created, so you have to use those tastefully. Soldier gunning down Sage. That's the first pick for Dplus Kia as they still hold on. It's a tenuous grasp on that top floor for Soldier. Problem is, the bomb is on the bottom floor, both bombs, and you have to get down there to defend them. Case in the hands of Fisho Guy. It's all up to Soldier as Gmally died. I don't even think Dmally got to use half of those Kiba barriers because they died in pocket now through the hatch. Soldier in a desperate attempt to slow down this Bliss squad doesn't get it done. Wettables ends the round. We go to round number 12. No timeout called as far as we're aware, which means that Dplus Kia have confidence that they can either win this round or then they'll go to overtime and then burn it. But I like that. Don't panic. You don't need to. See what Bliss can muster up here. It's going to be a first floor execute for Bliss, first floor defense for DPK, which was won back in round number 9, which was in the immediate aftermath of that timeout, and it was nearly won flawlessly. That's not a good sign to start under for Bliss, but every round is a new day.
I don't know if it's the bias talking or if it's
the bias.
The guzzler, but I am pleasantly surprised with the last couple of rounds from Bliss, right? Because we cast our minds back. They took the tactical timeout. The round after that, they get absolutely stomped in effectively a flawless fashion. The round after that, again, a challenge, but now they're rising to it.
10 seconds
And
left
despite the
before
threat of match point looming once again,
5 seconds
I must say they've been looking pretty good, or at least in that last round they looked quite good. So we'll see how they go this time around once again, first floor. So we'll see if they employ, not very clear, very time anticipating they probably will with the buck in play. Wettables can get to work on that. Fisher guy as well with the Twitch available can deal with the utility which will be littered around the objective. Multiple traps. Maestro as well getting a little bit of playtime. Maestro a talking point, somewhat heading into the event now with 3 evil eyes in total. But teams talking about the way in which they actually want to employ him into the defense. I've heard some say that are off-site and you can chip away at that drone economy as opposed to being traditional plant denial. Hard breach from Wettables, secondary in the pockets of the buck. Information available for Bliss. Again, their drone game really, really strong. You can see the information they've gathered. The question now posed, though, can they actually convert that information into favorable fights and, of course, win those out and convert the round?
It's a great drone and got sights on 3 separate players from Dplus Kia. A single drone getting that much information is huge for the attackers. And no mods on the board, so no risk of losing it. You can keep that drone up there. Obviously, with the Solus being a permaban by Bliss, you're also not really too worried about it getting discovered. So now what Bliss does with that information becomes the greater question. They know that there are 3 players inside this particular part of the map. Fisher guy walks in, takes the F-Not down, takes the mute jammer, immediately gets away. Bomb site is down below. So all this focus from Bliss has been upstairs, but as we noted, it is a piano defense. Woogie Man, who has been the big bad guy of Dplus Kia so far, is down for the count. Soldier, who was the last one alive in the previous round, goes 2, as does T-Mally. Yes, swings. Good for 1 kill, but just like that, Bliss overpower the defense of Dplus Kia. And we've got overtime. Bliss now 2 rounds away from sending Dplus Kia home. Dplus Kia 2 rounds away from sending us to a 3rd map. It will effectively be 3 rounds to determine which team might go home and whether we go to another map.
Yeah, Bliss doing a good job to just continue their efforts there on the attack and chip away at the lead established by Dplus. Off the back of a couple of very nicely placed drones, Bliss had information available, had the confidence to go for the push, and from multiple angles, they were able to get those picks. Mingarang obviously firing up the troops there behind them, as Bliss now will have to double down on attack here in overtime. Certainly not the side that you want to find yourself on, but we'll see whether or not they're able to defy the odds and complete this series in a 2-0 fashion. Of course, important to note that the series result here, in terms of it going to a 3rd map or not, is irrelevant. Whoever wins it's through, whoever loses will be packing their bags. So for Bliss, it would just be a cherry on top of the cake if they're able to win this map in the series 2-0. We'll see how they go there. Go about doing that. Top 4 we go. Again, last time for Bliss on this objective, it fell apart in the vending hallway, that deployable shield whilst taken down. Still facilitated a great play from Damali, as well as the rest of the Dplus roster. So we might see Bliss this time around actually switch it up. Focus over towards CEO. Funnily enough, we saw that from Dplus. A lot of that leveraging the buck from down below. Won't be the case though from Bliss, no buck in play.
Nade tossed out by Wettables, but nades obviously don't have that same potency that they used to, as you can't cook them now. They're Oftentimes good for that zoning that we discussed just a few rounds prior, where you throw them out and then want to follow up on them. Is, well, you know that somebody's there. They have to move or else they will die at the hands of the incendiary device. By the way, that was one of the SAS operators swinging onto the breach on balcony. But Bliss was on drone, so nobody dies. A minute now expired in this round. Admin in the clutches of Bliss. And Brendo comes very close to the very first pick in this round, as an EE1D will freeze Dplus in place unless they sit on one of those root jammers.
Barrier activated.
Marley sprinkling out those magnets once again, playing the vending position. We'll see how Bliss look to clear it out. Like I see off screen, a couple of Roteros being used to help clear that. Keep in mind there are keeper barriers elsewhere. You can see Fisher Guy staring down the barrel of one currently on the breach. He has the diffuser in hand, interestingly enough. Not a player on this eastern side. Typically we see teams go for a plant on the doorway. This may not be the case though for Bliss. Instead look to fully flood site. The potential is there. Weatables will replace Brendo's position. Soldier holding down the line still on the smoke. Doesn't want to die at this point though. That utility key installing out the push. He rotates over towards the breach. Fisher Guy may have a read on this in the moment off the back of the Hive launch. But he doesn't. The bees don't land. The smokes will though, a 4v4.
Diffuser down and they'll all come to blows. Case needs to be retrieved by Bliss as they keep numbers even, but they don't see Yas breakdancing on the ground. Sage with one, and Brendo picks up two. And now you've got to imagine the timeout gets called from this Dplus Kia squad, because it's series point for Bliss. If Dplus Kia lose this round, they go home.
Yeah, I can't help but feel there that Dplus were once again relying on that vending hold and probably anticipating Bliss to play into it far more than they did in the end. Again, they pivoted though towards the con window, the breach as well, and despite Fisho not having a read close by in the breach and falling elsewhere, the likes of Brendo able to find the picks required. Brendo currently on 15 kills, his brother not too far behind on double digits, 10 kills for him. The question will be though, after this round, especially if it's the conclusion of the match, did Dplus take that tactical a little bit too late?
I mean, yes and no. I don't think you can take it without going to overtime, right? I mean, why are you going to use it in regulation? Because then if you go to overtime, all hope is lost.
Because they don't know how to close out a game. Because they haven't been in this position before, because the most rounds they've gathered before this match is 3.
That is true, right? But Bliss now goes on to defense. Bliss was 4 of 6 rounds won on defense. Defense is inarguably the favored side on Consulate through this entire event. In terms of raw numbers, it's also the favored side in this particular matchup, more importantly. So the fact that Bliss is capable of winning 4 of those 6 rounds on defense, and Dplus then does the exact same thing, Dplus's stumbles on their very first defense means the probability of them winning has gone down immensely. All Bliss needs to do is channel what they had in that first round, or channel in that first half. And the main knock against Dplus in that first half, if you recall, was that they were so slow. It wasn't that Bliss was really doing that much. It was that Dplus weren't doing much either, and when you're on attack, the onus is on you to do something, because you need to get the diffuser in and you need to plant it. So the fact that Dplus wasn't able to do that, the fact that Bliss just needed to sit there and sit pretty, it gives me serious concerns for Dplus Kia. And I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care which team wins. All I want is to see a competitive matchup. Whether Dplus Kia wins or loses here at this particular moment, this Consulate has absolutely been competitive, and for that, I'm happy. I just want a thrilling conclusion either way. Could it be 1 round? Could it be 2? Let's find out, Michael.
Well, we had no Korean representation at the last Six Invitational, a region that has been put on notice, losing a major slot in 2024, so they have a lot to prove. Fortunately for Dplus, though, this could be their final round at the event if Bliss are able to follow the stats and win a defensive round. Can Dplus throw a spanner in the works? Woogieman's lurking outside top yellow at the moment, in a potential playmaking position, but he'll need some information. He might well follow this Flores drone from his teammate into Marley. He does. Arguably a favorable fight, but unable to win out. still survives though, which is critical in the late round. And again, if he wants to get to work down below with the skeleton key, that will remain an option. More of those Flores drones from Damali to be sent forth, looking to weaken that front desk position. I don't know if that one though was particularly effective. Elsewhere, Dplus are droning out the admin push. Not actively being held by the defense as far as I'm aware. Again, a lot of that defensive hold leveraged around the vending position from Sage. No shield in place though, instead one through split. Flashes to come through. No initial follow-up though from Dplus off the back of those, instead just fortifying their position on this half of the map.
Just deployable shield will need to be cleared out with the nade. There it is. It gets tossed out. Wettables backing off. You remember the very first defense. I think it was Fisho guy or Brendo who was playing on this absolutely destroyed long desk, just sitting and waiting, watching Spiral. Oda taking some damage early on. There go the bees. Fisho guy forced out of this position, and instead in retreat, will send out one of those toxic canisters. Coded is ready for this and should assuredly win this fight. There you go. Down goes Sage. He was in a terrible spot. No cross from Bliss to be able to punish Coded as he continues onwards. But there goes another member from Bliss, D-Molly, picking up kill number 3. Wettables is gone. Dplus Kia with the final 30 seconds left has an advantage, though it does narrow. Yes, getting the kill on the Fisher guy, trades it right back. There goes Yas as Brendo pushing on up. He doesn't seem to know where the location is. He's a bit too hasty, and Dplus Kia lock it out. Extremely confusing end as urgency obviously washed over that Bliss team, but a bit too urgent. They don't dot their I's, they don't cross their T's, and they die in the fights that come after.
Well, a little bit like your Nuggets off to the side. The defense has gone cold in the last couple of rounds.
Man's got to eat, Michael. Okay?
Oh, they're still cold.
No. Huge round from Dplus Kia. And Bliss, as we said before, Bliss just needs to sit there and wait, right? Dplus Kia isolated these players very, very effectively. And now, Dplus Kia's chances of winning have skyrocketed because they move on to defense. And they will go downstairs to Garage. Now, I will say this. Bliss's comeback to tie this map up started on this map. And Bliss showed some confidence here. So, the warning bells, obviously, for Australian fans and fans of Bliss across the board, and maybe you as well, should be going off. But it's far from certain that Dplus Kia will prevail, just simply because they're on defense.
I'm sure the Aussies back home want this game done this round. Otherwise, they'll be staying up to about 5 a.m., I think it is. But we'll wait and see.
5 seconds left.
Will attack prevail in overtime? It would certainly go against the grain from what we've seen so far, irrespective of the map, but the teams heavily defend-decided across the board. The basement would go around 15. Will Dplus, though, be able to weather this storm and survive? Send us the third map of Clubhouse. Perhaps the most defend-decided of all three in the series, which, again, a talking point if we get to it. Top floor presence from Dplus at the moment. And we'll see if Bliss play into it. They've shown at times that they're happy to. And with the Jackal in play alongside the double vert combo of the Buck and the Ram, very much signaling that that will be the case.
I like the just sheer immense amount of soft destruction. Though I do worry about Bliss not running a default hard breacher. They've done this so many rounds where they'll just bring a can opener in the hands of either the Grim or, in this case, in the hands of the Buck. There's a number of operators that have access to that secondary hard breach. And on a map like Console, if you're going for more of that pugilism, just straight punching, you don't need to worry about any hard destruction, then sure, why not bring more soft destruction and bring the operators that you think are better at getting kills. Now, excellent start. Bliss eliminating Coded. Opening kill goes in the hands of Brendo.
A pleasing result for Bliss. And we'll see if they're able to convert that advantage again. As we can see, flicking through these player POVs, the pre-placed drone game from Bliss has been phenomenal throughout this match. And only reaffirms why the Solace ban from them is so effective and why defensive teams find it a challenge to counteract that playstyle. The Boogie Auto Breach is being employed from top floor. Keeping in mind again, Wettables also in play with the Skeleton Key. So it could be a challenge for Dplus to play on the objective itself. And as we can see, quite spread at the moment. Might get to a point in time where they are going to look to regress up above or make the play. So critical that Bliss have their flank watch perfect. They do have the Nomad available, so it shouldn't be a huge problem, but just something to keep in mind.
Sage and Brendo both doing very important parts of the job to eliminate areas that Dplus Kia can potentially strike from, but the greater issue right now is Brendo will need to knock out this Kiba barrier and do so without dying in the process. I don't think he knows what is on the other side of it at the moment, whether it's being actively held by Dplus Kia or not.
Impact out.
Impact will go over, and there you go. Brendo now has an opportunity. It was gifted to him by Dplus Kia, and he takes advantage of it. D Malley, what on earth happened there? You just invited Bliss on into the bomb site. And Brendo can still sit in this spot, but Yas will stop him in his tracks. Time running out. Bliss will drop. Things will have to go, go, go with Diffuser in the hands of Fisho Guy. Down goes Wettables. Wookie Man will follow. Yas dies too. It's all up to Soldier, or else he and his team go home. Bliss, moments away from booking the plane ticket, unless Soldier can do something about it, but no! The reservation is made. Dplus Kia, done here at Six Invitational. Bliss prevailed 2-0.
A scrappy duel in the end, but the Aussies out on top. It's been a long, long time since we've had Oceanic representation at the event. And fortunately for them, the trend will continue that they will fight their way out of the group stage. A phenomenal performance from Bliss in a match that at times looked like it could have slipped out of reach, but they were able to correct course 2-0 in the end, and I think they'll be pretty close.
Were you a little nervous?
I think, funnily enough, I was actually more nervous during the FaZe game because they had many close maps throughout the series. But obviously this one, the stakes are arguably higher, but I was confident that they were going to win, and that was the case in the end.
Well, a hard-fought matchup, and we have two teams now going home. GK eliminated earlier in the day. Now it's Dplus Kia to go home. GK is a bit of a surprise. Dplus Kia obviously a surprise too, but when you look at this group, this is a tough group to be in. You know, you got Space Station, who is doing, I would argue Space Station is doing better than a lot of people expected. You had FaZe and Wolves obviously have had some consistency issues. Bliss, in terms of these five teams, has the least experience of all of them, and yet they were able to keep matches close. They showed up big in some very important matches against their adversaries, and of course, the big one, defeating Damwon Kia, or Dplus Kia, that old Damwon Kia roster, that at one point in time, only 2 years ago, we were talking about when they were Damwon Kia. They're one of the best teams in the world. Oh, we want to see them make it to the finals. And then they ultimately didn't make it quite that far. The team has made some roster moves since then. One of their former players, Rin, is now actually still in this event, but is on the Fear X roster. So I guess in that sense, Rin can be kind of happy with the changes, though Rin had some shaky games. This Dplus Kia team has a lot of issues, and obviously the org has acknowledged that by posting earlier on social media that they are looking to change up this roster at the conclusion of the Six Invitational. I guess this might just hasten the process a little bit by the fact that now they are eliminated and won't be making a deep run here at SI.
Yeah, it's going to be very intriguing in a couple of months to see who's on the chopping block. But for Bliss, I was concerned for them heading into this event. They didn't have the best of boot camp conditions, so it was always going to be a case of them feeling their way through the tournament and continuing to improve. Obviously, they had solid results against even SSG and Wolves, who they lost to, snuck a map off FaZe. The stage was set for them to win this game against Dplus, provided they didn't succumb to the pressure. Couple of pressure points throughout this game where it almost looked like that was going to be the case, but ultimately not in the end. They scaped through, do a good job, and for all the Australians back home, thanks for tuning in. I know it's late, but you were rewarded.
No, absolutely. And if you're a little, I've seen some chatter on social media about the record column being a bit confusing for people to understand. So let's look at Space Station as the example, as they're at the top of the group right now. That's 5 maps won in regulation, 2 maps won in overtime, one map lost in overtime, and 1 map lost in regulation. So the inverse of that is Dplus Kia, who you see didn't win a single map this entire event. They go home with their record being 1 map lost in overtime, 7 maps lost in regulation, and they are half of the rounds won that Team Bliss won 27-54. A lot of work to be done from Dplus Kia, and honestly, They could blow up the roster. They could make some serious swaps. There's lots of potential and lots of good players over in Korea. So who do you pick up? Well, you have to imagine that for us, Woogieman, Yas, and Coded have been on this roster for ages. Are their positions safe? There are times when a player will do well on, as you can see right now, Brendo going 18-10. But what if Brendo's the most toxic person on the roster? There have been times where the best player on the team, quote unquote, has been moved off because of attitude issues or commitment issues or communication issues. There's always more to a team than meets the eye, and we don't know exactly what's going on with Dplus Kia. Here are all the stats for you. Brendo was the MVP. It was a brotherly affair as he and Sage topped the charts for Bliss.
Yeah, good performance from Bliss overall, and looking at those numbers, nothing standing out as being too overly unexpected. I will say Oda stepped up today heading into this particular play day, number 5. He was struggling a little bit, but able to step up nicely in this series. But again, the double down on the point for Dplus. They are a team. In very obvious,
they are a team. That's absolutely correct.
Turmoil. There's big issues for them. Can they correct course in 2024? Who knows? As I mentioned as well, they've lost the spot at the majors for 2024. So they're going to have to be absolutely spot on and make sure that these changes, whatever they are good, or they'll be in trouble.
It says
I'm not going to comment.
It says Gessler.
I know.
Well, it's half of our day done, but we still have some more groups left. There's still 2 more teams that have to go home as we go from 20 down to 16. Which teams will we say farewell to? Find out in a couple minutes, but first, the Intel play.